Chapter 1288. Under normal circumstances, Long Hang wouldn't take Longao seriously. But now, with the previous example, even Long Hang wouldn't believe that he wasn't afraid. Causing trouble in the Martial Artists Alliance, killing 2 deputy leaders, and escaping from the Martial Artists Alliance's ancestor, Tong Zun. Could he do it? Longao, it's not that I want to go against you, but you're not a disciple of the family. Longao waved his hand impatiently. Long Hang's attitude had obviously changed. If it was Long Hang's previous domineering attitude, he wouldn't be like this. In the end, Long Hang was afraid. Patriarch, I'll ask you one last time. Can I enter the ancestral hall? Domineering. It had to be said that Longao was indeed domineering. He dared to be so presumptuous in front of the Long family's patriarch. There weren't many people in the Tianwu continent who dared to do so. But what was the result? Long Ditian was in a dilemma. If he agreed to Longao's request, Long Hang would definitely make a big fuss about it. If he didn't agree to Longao's request, he would dare to cause trouble in the Martial Artists Alliance. He would also dare to cause trouble in the Long family. The Long family couldn't afford to lose something like the Martial Artists Alliance. As the patriarch of the Long family, Long Ditian only thought of the family's interests. In the end, Longao, I can't agree to let you enter the ancestral hall, but you have to promise me one thing. He was overjoyed, but Long Hang's face darkened. As for whether he was excited or cold, it was really unknown. Patriarch, please speak. It's very simple. You just need to bring me into the Dragon Clan. He wasn't surprised at all. Longao had already guessed that Long Ditian would definitely raise this condition. After all, there was only one thing that was most important to the Long family, and that was the Dragon Clan. As long as he could save Yuan, Longao wouldn't hesitate even if it meant going through a mountain of blades and a sea of flames. No problem. Long Ditian had already guessed that Longao would definitely agree. After all, Longao could cause a ruckus at the Martial Artists Alliance for Yuan, not to mention helping him enter the dragon race. Moreover, the condition that he proposed was as easy as flipping his hand for Longao. Longao, come with me. Patriarch. Seeing that Longao had no intention of moving, Long Ditian was very curious and asked, Do you still have something to say? Let alone Long Ditian. Even Long Bo and Long Hang were quite curious. After all, Long Ditian had already agreed. Could it be that Longao was still not satisfied? Clan leader, others might not know, but I believe the 3 of you should know that the ancestral hall I entered earlier is not the real ancestral hall of the Long family. I have come here for the real ancestral hall. I hope that clan leader can grant me my wish. When they heard Longao's words, their expressions changed. It was just as Longao had said. Others might not know what the real ancestral hall meant, but how could the 3 of them not know? The real ancestral hall was the biggest secret of the Long family. Other than the clan leader, Long Bo, and the various elders, it could be said that no one knew about it. That was exactly the case. The 3 of them could not figure out how Longao knew about this. Longao, I really want to know. How did you know that the real ancestral hall in the family is not this? As expected. Previously, Long Fu had said that, but Longao was not sure. Now that he saw the expressions on the 3's faces, he was almost certain that Long Fu was right. The real ancestral hall of the Long family was not the one he had entered before, but another one. If not for the Long family and by Ling's words, Longao would not have known about it. Even the Long family's disciples would not know about the real ancestral hall's secret. This time, the reason why Longao had come to the Long family and had to enter the real Long family's ancestral hall was because of what Bai Ling and Xiling had said. According to the 2 of them, if she were to forcefully break the seal, it was not impossible. If that was the case, Yuan would likely become a walking corpse. How could Long Ao let Yuan become a walking corpse? Clan leader, it doesn't matter how I know. What's important is that you have just agreed to let me enter the ancestral hall. I hope you don't go back on your words otherwise. Although Long Ao did not finish his words, the meaning of his words was very clear. Long Ditian's face was extremely gloomy, because even a fool would know that he had been tricked by Long Ao. If Long Ao had said this before, it was unknown whether Long Ditian would have agreed or not. But now, Longao was obviously threatening him. If it was the Longao of the past, Long Dtion would not have cared about him. Even with the oracle's prophecy, he would not have cared about Longao. But now, the situation was completely different. No matter how strong Longao was now, the other party knew a secret technique that could forcefully increase his strength in the shortest amount of time. Furthermore, it was Nirvana rebirth. What did it mean to be able to kill Tong Tiandi? Long Dtion was very clear about his own strength. He was not much different from Tong Tiandi. Since Long Ao could kill Tong Tiandi, he could also kill him. As the number one expert of the Long family, if he could not stop Long Ao, who else could? The Martial Artists Alliance still had Tong Zun, but what about the Long family? Long Tian had already fallen, and it was impossible for him to suddenly appear like Tong Zun. Therefore, under Long Ao's threat, Long Dtion could only endure it. He had too many misgivings. No matter when, no matter what happened, he was still the clan leader of the Long family. As long as he was the clan leader of the Long family, no matter what happened, he would first think of the family's interests, not his own, and not Long Hang's. Under such circumstances, Long Hang would not choose to become enemies with Long Dtion. The two of them fought openly and secretly, but it was still an internal conflict. Now that Long Ao was looking for trouble, they had to work together. On this point, the two of them had a tacit understanding. Long Ao, I can't make a decision on this matter. I need to immediately call for an elders' conference. I hope you can wait. Long Dtion spoke in such a tone. If word got out, no one would believe him. After all, Long Dtion's status and strength were obvious. Not to mention a small Long Ao. Even the other master would have to be polite to him. Long Ao was pretending, because it was impossible for him to forcefully increase his strength a second time. According to Xiling and Bai Ling, if there was a second time, not to mention 6 hours, Long Ao might not even be able to last 5 minutes. Because of this, no matter when, Long Ao would not make such a choice. If Long Ao did not say anything, no one would know. In a situation where no one knew, Long Ao was the most mysterious. Usually, the more mysterious something was, the more unfathomable it was, and the more Long Dtion was afraid of it. P.S. My head hurts. Little Nine is going to sleep first. I don't have to go to work tomorrow. I'll have a good day writing. Good night, everyone. Chapter 1289. Shrugging his shoulders, Long Ao agreed. Long Ao was very clear in his heart that this matter was of great importance. Even Long Dtion could not make the decision by himself. Not long after, Long Dtion and the other two left. In the entire hall, only Long Ao was left. Long Ao was not in a hurry, because he had already arrived at the Long family, and entering the ancestral hall was a must. If anyone blocked him, he would kill them. Long family, in another secret room. Other than Long Dtion and Long Hang, a total of 10 elders were gathered in the secret room. Without exception, the 10 elders were all Nirvana realm martial artists. This way, just the power of the Long family had already surpassed the Martial Artists Alliance. Furthermore, the Long family had the so-called Dragon Clan behind them. However, the Long family knew very well that they could not rely too much on the Dragon Clan. Otherwise, once the Dragon Clan left in the future, the Long family would have a hard time surviving. The reason was simple. Long family and the Dragon Clan shared a common enemy, not because the two families had a good relationship, but because of the wishes left behind by the ancestors of the two families. No matter what, the two families had to never leave each other. But could the Long family and the Dragon Clan really not leave each other? If Long Tian and the primordial divine dragon were still around, they might be able to. However, the two ancestors had already fallen. Long family and the Dragon Clan might not be able to leave each other. Previously, when they did not encounter any difficulties, the two families could work together against a common enemy. But now, the Dragon Clan had been sealed by the heavenly Tao. Could it be that the Long family had never thought of giving up on the Dragon Clan? If it was an ordinary person, even if the other party was from the other 10 sects, the Long family would not care at all. However, the other party was the heavenly Tao, the number one expert of the Sky Martial Continent. Not to mention the Long family, even if the other 10 sects joined forces, they would not be a match for the heavenly Tao. Provoking the heavenly Tao was equivalent to courting death. What do you all think? With regards to Longao's situation, the 10 elders were very clear. If it was someone else, with the Long family's strength, they could simply ignore it. However, Longao's situation was completely different. He had wreaked havoc in the Martial Artists Alliance, killed 2 Vice Alliance masters, and escaped from Tong Zun's hands. This in itself showed how powerful Longao was. Was it really a good idea to provoke Longao? Furthermore, the current Long family could be said to be troubled times. The Dragon Clan was sealed by the heavenly Tao. If the Longao continued to wreak havoc in the Long family, it would definitely not be a good thing for the Long family. The faces of the 10 elders were very solemn, and they didn't know how to choose. Everyone looked at Long Hang. Everyone knew that Long Hang and Long Ditian were not on good terms, but in this kind of matter, the two of them would usually be on the same side. Long Hang knew what the 10 elders meant. After thinking for a while, "Clan leader, let's put aside the grudges between us for now. Now that the Dragon Clan is sealed by the heavenly Tao, and the Longao is aggressive, we should think about how to deal with the current situation." Long Ditian smiled. As the clan leader of the Long family, of course, he wanted to see this situation the most. This was because the two of them knew very well that if they continued to fight at this time, it would have a great impact on the Long family. "Great Elder, what do you think we should do? With the madness of the Longao, we can't go head-to-head with him. Otherwise, even if we can kill the Longao in the end, I'm afraid we'll suffer a great loss." Everyone nodded in agreement with the Great Elder's analysis. No one was willing to provoke this lunatic who dared to wreak havoc in the Martial Artists Alliance alone, because no one could guarantee that the Longao wouldn't deal with the Long family. As the saying goes, those who wear shoes are afraid of those who are barefoot. "Great Elder, what do you mean?" "Clan leader, we can agree with the Longao. After all, there are no secrets in the Ancestral Hall. If the Longao goes in, so be it. Why don't we take this opportunity to ask the Longao to help us?" He waved his hand. Long Ditian's face was very serious. The Dragon Clan is sealed by the Heavenly Tao. If nothing goes wrong, the Heavenly Tao will definitely deal with the Dragon Clan and us. Long Hang and the other 11 people all nodded in agreement. Perhaps others didn't know, but as the elders of the Long family, how could they not know the reason? The ancestor of the Dragon Clan, the primordial divine dragon, and the ancestor of the Long family, Long Tian, had joined forces to fight the Heavenly Tao. Although they were defeated in the end, the strength of the two ancestors had directly threatened the Heavenly Tao. Because of this, even if the two ancestors died, the Heavenly Tao was still worried. For 10,000 years, the Heavenly Tao had been trying to force the two ancestors out. No one knew whether the two old ancestors had vanished into thin air or not. However, the 12 of them knew very well that the Heavenly Tao would not give up even if there was a slight chance. It was better to be safe than sorry. The Heavenly Tao would not let any chance appear. Although they did not know why the Heavenly Tao had not made a move for so many years, now that the Heavenly Tao had sealed the Dragon Clan, they believed that it would deal with the Long family later. At this juncture, Long Ditian and Long Hang did not want to cause any trouble. Therefore, the two of them looked at each other and finally decided to let Longao enter the Ancestral Hall. In fact, the real Ancestral Hall was nothing much. It was just that the old ancestor had passed down an order that no matter who it was, no one was allowed to enter without the clan leader's orders, or if there was no other reason. Even Long Ditian rarely entered the Ancestral Hall. It could be said that the real Ancestral Hall was the greatest forbidden ground for the Long family. Not to mention entering the Ancestral Hall, it was a problem for ordinary people to even know about it. In the hall, Longao sat alone. He picked up the teacup on the table and took a sip. He was not worried at all because he had already decided that no matter what decision Long Ditian made, he would enter the Ancestral Hall even if he had to pay a great price. For Yuan, everything was worth it. The sound of footsteps rang out. Not long after, Long Ditian and Long Hang had entered the hall. This time, Long Bo did not follow. "Clan leader, what's the result of your discussion?" Looking at Long Ao in front of them, Long Ditian and Long Hang cursed fiercely in their hearts. The other party had already guessed their decision, but he still had a shameless look on his face. Just looking at him made them extremely unhappy. Longao, after the elders' discussion, you can enter the ancestral hall, but you have to agree to 3 of our conditions. Otherwise, even if we have to fight, we will stop you. Longao laughed in his heart. He had already guessed that the Long family would definitely agree to him. After all, the Martial Artists Alliance had already learned their lesson. Unless it was a last resort, the Long family would not take the risk. Furthermore, the Dragon Clan had already been sealed by the Heavenly Tao. In these troubled times, the Long family would not choose to fall out with him. As for the 3 conditions, Longao had already thought of them. It would be strange if the Long family did not mention any conditions. Longao did not hesitate and nodded in agreement. Chapter 1290. As long as you agree to our 3 conditions, you can enter the ancestral hall. Speak. Long Dition and Long Heng looked at each other. In the end, it was still Long Heng who spoke. Longao, my 3 conditions are very simple. First, you have to help the family head enter the Dragon Clan. No problem. Longao didn't even think about it and directly agreed. The Heavenly Tao sealed the Dragon Clan with the Origin Energy Barrier. In the entire Sky Martial Continent, other than the Divine Mathematician, no one seemed to be able to break the Origin Energy Barrier and enter the Dragon Clan. Just because others couldn't do it didn't mean that he couldn't do it. With the help of Xiling and Bai Ling, it could be said that Longao could enter the Dragon Clan whenever he wanted. As for bringing Long Dition into the Dragon Clan, it was even easier. The second condition, you have to promise us that no matter what happens in the future, you are not allowed to deal with the Long family. Longao didn't immediately answer the Long family's second condition. According to Longao's previous thoughts, a battle between him and the Long family would definitely be unavoidable in the future. As the saying goes, a mountain cannot accommodate 2 tigers. Longao wasn't a fool. He believed that the Long family was very afraid of him. If he agreed and couldn't deal with the Long family in the future, wouldn't he be in a very passive position? What if he didn't agree? If he didn't agree, he wouldn't be able to enter the ancestral hall. At that time, Yuan would be in big trouble. Longao knew his own limits. With his current strength, it was impossible for him to fight against the entire Long family. Once he was obstructed, he wouldn't be able to enter. It was still the same words. For Yuan, everything was worth it. Nodding, Longao agreed. Seeing that Longao had agreed, Long Heng and Long Dition weren't as happy as they had imagined. Instead, they were furious. Putting forward such a condition was undoubtedly the greatest insult to the Long clan. However, it should be known that the Long family was one of the 10 great forces. There was no need to talk about their strength. Even the other 9 great forces would not dare to casually provoke the Long family. Long family making such a request clearly showed that the Long family was afraid of Longao. Long family, where would their dignity be? Under such circumstances, Long family could only shake his head helplessly even if he was extremely unhappy. Who asked Longao to be a madman? Moreover, the Heavenly Tao had sealed the Dragon Clan at this time. It was still the same phrase, troubled times. One last condition. If it weren't for Yuan, Longao wouldn't have agreed to the previous 2 conditions. Longao, we want to know how you managed to break through from deity to nirvana in the shortest amount of time possible. How did you do it, and why you didn't suffer any backlash? Shameless. Longao cursed fiercely in his heart when he heard Long Heng's words. Ever since the battle with the Martial Artists Alliance, Longao believed that many people would be interested in his method. However, even if he told everyone, would anyone be able to do it? Unless Xiling and Bai Ling were willing to help. Longao sneered. If he agreed to this, his secret would be exposed. At that time, not only would he be in great danger, but even Xiling and Bai Ling would be in great danger. However, Xiling and Bai Ling's original bodies were Jinling who had reached the peak of martial arts. If the 2 Jinling were caught by an expert, swallowed, refined, and merged, who would be able to save them? Longao was almost certain that once their identities were exposed, not to mention others, even the Heavenly Tao would take action. It was precisely because of this that Longao could not agree to it. Long Dition, Long Hang. I can agree to the first two conditions. However, I can tell you clearly that I will not agree to the last one. Furthermore, I can tell you that you can forget about it. Although they had already guessed that Longao would say this, the two of them were still very unhappy. Longao, you are no longer a disciple of the Long family. Furthermore, you have a request to make of us. Are you still not going to agree to our three conditions? The clan leader is right. Long Hang sneered in his heart, but his expression was very calm as he said, Longao, we have already done our best. Back then, the old ancestor had decreed that no matter who it is, no one is allowed to enter the ancestral hall. Even I am not qualified, let alone an outsider like you. Without waiting for Longao to speak, Long Hang continued speaking. Our grudges can be put aside for now. This time, we are only speaking the truth. After all, if this matter were to spread, we would not be able to answer to the family. Under normal circumstances, the three conditions proposed by the Long family were not unreasonable at all. However, the third condition was indeed impossible for Longao. He could not harm Xiling and Bai Ling just for Yuan. Longao would rather fall out with the Long family. What if I don't agree? Long Dition and Long Hang laughed. Long Dition smiled and shook his head as he said, if you don't agree, we will not let you enter the ancestral hall. Longao, don't try to go against us. The Long family is not the Martial Artists Alliance. The Long family was determined to obtain Longao's secret technique that could forcefully increase his strength and did not have any side effects. The Long family was very clear that once they obtained this secret technique, it would be equivalent to the Long family having tens of thousands of Nirvana realm martial artists. What kind of concept was that? Just thinking about it made them extremely excited. Therefore, Long Dition and Long Hang had already decided that even if they had to risk falling out with Longao, they had to obtain this secret technique. Once they obtained it, there was no doubt that the Long family would be able to dominate the Tianwu continent in the future. How could Longao not know what the two of them were thinking? I'm sorry, but I don't agree. Since that's the case, forgive me for not accompanying you. However, the two of you must remember one thing. You will definitely regret today's matter. As soon as he finished speaking, Longao immediately turned and left. In just a short while, he had already disappeared without a trace. From the beginning to the end, the two of them did not seem to be able to react. This was because they did not expect Longao to leave just like that. He did not even bargain. They were completely caught off guard. Patriarch, what does Longao mean by this? It would be a lie to say that they were not afraid. After all, Longao's name had already shaken the world. He was a famous madman. If they provoked this person, once Longao decided to fall out with them, at that time, how could the Long family resist? Especially under such circumstances. I don't know. It seems that we have touched the other party's bottom line. I'm afraid that Longao will not leave this matter at that. Great Elder, bring the 10 elders to the ancestral hall. If Longao does not agree to our conditions, he can forget about entering the ancestral hall. Chapter 1291. Since things had reached this stage, Long Dition knew that he could not give in no matter what. Longao had to agree to these three conditions, especially the last one. Once he got it, it would not be difficult for the Long family to dominate the Sky Martial continent. Long Dition was full of confidence. He did not believe that Longao alone could shake the entire Long family. Longao left the Long family smoothly, on the peak of a mountain not too far away from the Long family. Looking at the Long clan in the distance, the corner of Longao's mouth slowly curled into a sneer. Long Fu, can you confirm the location of the Long family's ancestral hall? If he could not do it openly, he would do it secretly. Longao did not believe that with his speed, he would not be able to enter the Long family's ancestral hall. If it was anyone else, they might not know where the ancestral hall was, but Long Fu definitely knew where it was. Master, are you really going to the ancestral hall? Nodding his head, Longao's face was filled with determination. For Yuan, he could barge into the Martial Artists Alliance alone, not to mention the Long family's ancestral hall. Regardless of whether it was a mountain of blades or a sea of fire, he would give it a try. How could Long Fu not know his master's character? Master, Since that is the case, I will tell you about the ancestral hall. In the Sky Martial continent, there was probably no one who knew more about the Long family's ancestral hall than Long Fu. Long Ao sat on a huge rock and prepared to listen to the Long family's ancestral hall. Master, back then, Old Master roamed the world and accidentally found a treasure land. He then created the Long family, and the primordial divine dragon followed him and created the Dragon Clan. Treasure land? Could it be that the treasure land Long Fu was talking about was the Long family's ancestral hall? As expected, I believe Master has already guessed it. The treasure land that Old Master found was the Long family's ancestral hall. Continue. Long Ao's intuition told him that this matter was definitely not simple. Master, do you know why the heavenly axiom hasn't dared to deal with Long family for so many years? Clairvoyant? Regarding this point, Long Ao almost already knew. If it weren't for the oracle, the heavenly axiom would have already taken action against the Long family and the Dragon Clan. As for why it had waited so many years to take action, the answer was obvious. Could it be that there was a secret behind it? Master, I can tell you clearly that the reason why the heavenly Tao is unwilling to act is not because of the oracle. What a big secret. Before Long Ao could ask, Long Fu continued, Master, you entered the Dragon Clan's draconic arcane realm and met the Black Demon. Do you remember that? Of course I remember. Long Ao could forget everything, but he could not forget this matter. The Black Demon was an expert at the pinnacle of martial arts that had surpassed the way of heaven. Previously, he had fainted in a daze. After waking up, he found that the Black Demon did not continue to deal with him. Until now, he was still a little curious. He did not know what the Black Demon gourd was selling. Could it be that the heavenly Tao did not take action against the Long family because of the Black Demon? The Dragon Clan's draconic arcane realm and the Dragon Clan's ancestral hall are interconnected. One can enter the dark space from both places. The reason why the heavenly axiom did not dare to make a move for so many years was partly because it was afraid of the oracle, but more importantly, the heavenly axiom was afraid of the Black Demon. I see. This time, the heavenly Tao sealed the Dragon Clan and did not dare to slaughter them because of the Black Demon. The heavenly Tao did not know that the Black Demon was sealed here. Once the seal is broken, he will be killed by the Black Demon. Killed in an instant? Lin Fan was shocked. Although Long Ao knew very well that the Black Demon's strength was far beyond the heavenly Tao, he did not expect the Black Demon to be so powerful that he could kill the heavenly Tao in an instant. Long Fu, how powerful is the Black Demon? Very powerful, at least much more powerful than the heavenly Tao. Moreover, the Black Demon is very evil and does not have scruples like the oracle. Therefore, the heavenly Tao is very afraid of the Black Demon. Now, Long Ao already knew the truth. It turned out that the real reason the heavenly Tao did not take action was because of the Black Demon in the dark space, and no other reason. In that case, Long Ao began to be curious. He did not know how to save Yuan if he entered the ancestral hall. Could it be that he had to borrow the Black Demon's strength? Before Long Ao could continue to ask, Bai Ling's figure appeared and said very gently, Brother Long, we don't want you to borrow the Black Demon's strength to save Sister Yuan. In the Long family's ancestral hall, there is a divine weapon that can protect the divine soul. It can protect Sister Yuan's divine soul from being destroyed. In this way, we can save Sister Yuan without worry. This divine weapon belongs to the Black Demon? He shook his head. Bai Ling looked at Long Fu. Her meaning was very clear. That was to say, do you want to say it, or do you want me to say it? Miss Bai Ling, I think you should say it. Looking at Bai Ling and Long Fu's expressions, Long Ao was very curious. It seemed that the divine weapon in the Long family's ancestral hall was extraordinary. However, for Yuan, he would try no matter how difficult it was. Brother Long, this divine weapon is the seal that seals the draconic arcane realm and the ancestral hall. Once you take it away, the seal will be opened. At that time, the Black Demon will be born and the world will be in chaos. Even the oracle will not be able to suppress it. This, she did not continue because Bai Ling did not know what to say. Should she ask Brother Long to give up? Obviously, that was not very likely. However, once the seal was opened and the Black Demon was born, with the black demon's strength. Who in the world could suppress the black demon? Longao already knew what Bai Ling meant. If that was really the case, things would be really troublesome. However, after thinking about it, Longao said, Bai Ling, if I bring Yu Yin here, we will only use the divine weapon to protect Yu Yin's soul. We will not take the divine weapon away. Is that okay? Longao, your thinking is too simple. Xiling had just finished speaking when he appeared beside Bai Ling, shaking his head helplessly. Xiling said, Longao, once you use the divine weapon to scare Yu Yin's soul, then the divine weapon will remain in Yu Yin's body. Unless Yu Yin dies, it will be very difficult to take it away. So that's how it is. Longao completely understood what the two of them meant. In the end, the divine weapon could not be moved, the black demon could not be released, and Yu Yin could not absorb the divine weapon. If that was the case, what would happen to Yu Yin? He thought about it. Longao did not hesitate at all and said decisively, what does the world's safety have to do with me? I only have one goal, and that is to save Yu Yin. No matter who it is, don't even think about stopping me. Hey Mo, I only know one thing. Even if the black demon is born, he will not do anything to me. It might even be beneficial to me. The black demon did not kill him before. Longao was very confident that even if the black demon was born, he would not kill him. Chapter 1292. What does the safety of the continent have to do with me? Hearing Longao's words, Xiling and Bai Ling were a little stunned. However, they both envied Yu Yin because Longao could disregard the safety of the continent for Yu Yin. They believed that every woman would want such persistence and determination. Brother Long, have you thought about it? Let's go. Longao had decided that no matter what happened, he would save Yu Yin. As for whether the black demon's appearance would harm the continent, he didn't care anymore. Also, if the black demon left the dark space, whether the heaven would destroy the Long family and the Dragon clan, it had nothing to do with him. In his heart, Yu Yin's safety was the most important. Long family, in the deepest part. Long family had listed this place as a forbidden area. No one could enter without the order of the patriarch. Once found, they would be killed without mercy. As for the ancestral hall, few people knew about it. Even the core disciples of the Long family didn't know about it. Under normal circumstances, the forbidden area of the ancestral hall would be guarded by martial artists of the Supreme Tao. Because this place was the Longsha clan all along, nothing would happen at all. But now, the Great Elder gathered the 10 elders outside the ancestral hall. It seemed that something big was going to happen. Many Supreme Tao warriors guarding the ancestral hall were nervous. No one dared to ask, Great Elder, does Longao really dare to come? Although Longao had made a scene in the Martial Artists Alliance, the 10 elders still didn't believe that Longao dared to come alone. After all, this was the Long family's territory. If the 11 of them joined forces, even the patriarch was no match for them, let alone Longao. He will definitely come, Longhang said decisively because he knew that Longao would definitely come. Others might not, but Longao definitely would. If Longao could single-handedly make a scene at the Martial Artist Alliance for a woman, then Longao could also single-handedly come here for a woman. It would be strange if Longao did not come. Just as Longhang had guessed, Longao had indeed come. Not only was Longao here, he was not far away from the 11 people. Unfortunately, even with the 11 people's strength, none of them could sense Longao's presence. Longfu, is there only one entrance to the ancestral hall? Longao knew his limits. With his strength, he would definitely lose in a one-on-one battle, let alone a one-on-one battle, let alone entering the ancestral hall. Now that he had a Long family, he still maintained his mysterious strength. However, Longao knew very well that it would not be easy for him to enter the ancestral hall. Moreover, he had to enter the ancestral hall without anyone noticing. Master, there is only one entrance to the ancestral hall. Why don't you enter the Dragon clan through the Draconic Arcane Realm? Long Fu did not continue, but the meaning in his words was very clear. Longao had entered the Draconic Arcane Realm before. If he had not been careful, he would have died in the Draconic Arcane Realm. He shook his head. Longao rejected directly. Although the black demons did not kill him, It did not mean that the mysterious creatures in the draconic arcane realm would not kill him. Longao did not want to take the risk. It did not matter if he died, but what about his loved ones and family? He seemed to have guessed it. Long Fu thought for a while and continued, Master, if you want to enter the ancestral hall without anyone noticing, there is only one way. What way? Hearing Long Fu's words, Longao was overjoyed and asked eagerly, Master, I'll borrow your spatial teleportation and your doppelganger. At this point, Long Fu did not continue, but the meaning of his words was very clear. Long Fu's meaning was very simple. Without any hesitation, Longao could not wait any longer. In the next second, the Samsara immortal clone had already rushed out. The clone was exactly the same as Longao. Even the aura of the clone was exactly the same. Ordinary people would not be able to tell the difference at all. He's here. Looking at Longao, who suddenly appeared in front of them, the 11 people were shocked. Longao was not bad. The other 10 people were a little dumbfounded because they did not believe that Longao would really come. He was simply courting death. Take him down. Without the secretary, the Long family would definitely not kill Longao. In the 11 people's opinion, it would be a piece of cake to take down Longao with all of them working together. As soon as Longao appeared, he turned around and shot in another direction before entering the ancestral hall. The 11 people looked at each other. This time they came to guard the ancestral hall in order to take down Longao. Now that Longao had appeared, the 11 people certainly would not continue to guard the ancestral hall. Instead, they all shot in the direction of Longao. The 11 people were very fast. At a glance, it was obvious that they had put in a lot of effort. In the blink of an eye, the 11 people and Longao's clone had all disappeared without a trace. Looking at the 11 people's disappearing figures, Longao was overjoyed. However, there were still many Supreme Tao warriors around the ancestral hall. If he acted rashly, his whereabouts would definitely be exposed. At that time, the fact that he had a clone would definitely be exposed. However, things had already come to this point. Of course, Longao did not have the slightest hesitation. With the help of spatial teleportation, his whole figure had already disappeared. With Longao's current strength, he was still unable to enter the ancestral hall in one step. When he was still about 10 meters away, Longao's figure appeared. However, in less than 2 seconds, more than a dozen figures had already rushed out from the surroundings. All of them were Supreme Tao warriors. Each of them shot towards Longao with murderous intent. The dozens of people did not expect that Longao, who had just left, would suddenly appear at this time. No one knew what had happened. They only knew one thing, that was, no matter what happened, they could not let Longao enter the ancestral hall. The dozens of people were very clear that once Longao entered the ancestral hall, all of them would die. For their lives, for their families, more than a dozen people risked their lives. Would Longao be afraid? Longao himself was a human god warrior. As long as he did not encounter a heavenly god warrior, then with his powerful strength, he could completely sweep away all the Supreme Tao warriors. Under the situation of 1 against 10, Longao still managed to close in step by step, forcing the dozens of people step by step into the ancestral hall. Holding the God-punishing sword, Longao used the God-punishing secret art. Waves of God-punishing sword chi crisscrossed. In less than 3 minutes, among the dozens of people, half of them had already died. The remaining Supreme Tao warriors were shocked when they saw this situation. Legends were just legends. They originally thought that Longao's strength was not that powerful. Now it seemed that Longao's strength had completely exceeded everyone's imagination. Not daring to have the slightest carelessness, the remaining people turned around and wanted to leave. As for whether Longao would enter the ancestral hall, they no longer cared. They would leave first. Chapter 1293. But would the rest be able to leave? Longao would not make such a low-level mistake. Not a single one was left. Longao's speed soared to the limit. In just a few minutes, the rest were all killed. In about 5 minutes, dozens of divine Tao martial artists, including Earth God martial artists, were all killed by Longao. Not a single one was left. Longao's speed was very fast. He cleaned up all the corpses. The ancestral hall was right in front of him. For Yuin, Longao was willing to pay any price. He was even willing to release Hayamo. He pushed open the door of the ancestral hall. Longao carefully entered the ancestral hall. The entire hall was dark and gave off a strange feeling. Long Fu, by Ling. Where's the artifact? Brother Long, keep walking inside. Following Bai Ling's guidance, Longao walked all the way inside and found the mechanism. A black passage appeared behind the memorial tablet. Longao already knew that the Long family's ancestral hall was connected to the Dragon Clan's draconic arcane realm. In other words, one could enter the dark space from here. As for what kind of danger one would encounter, no one knew. Outer Sea. Inside the Crystal Palace. As soon as Longao's figure left, the clairvoyant appeared. He smiled helplessly and shook his head. Clairvoyant, why didn't you help Longao? Long Baishan's figure appeared as well. He was curious because saving Yuin was a piece of cake for the two of them. I've said before that from now on, none of us should help him. I want to see how much potential Longao has. Long Batian nodded in agreement. He also knew that it was not a good thing to always rely on others. Everything depended on oneself. He might be able to do it, but the clairvoyant definitely would not. Clairvoyant, I'm curious. When Longao entered the draconic arcane realm, he must have met Hayamo, but he was able to leave the draconic arcane realm alive. Both the Oracle and Long Batian knew about the existence of the Black Demon in the draconic mystic realm. Black Fiend was extremely powerful. Even the Heavenly Tao had nearly been killed by Black Fiend back then. This was also the true reason why the Heavenly Tao was very afraid of Black Fiend. In the martial heaven continent, there are some people whose fates I am unable to divine. Longao is one of them. Master God Diviner thought for a moment, then said, the fact that Longao was able to leave this place alive means that he must have some sort of secret. Let's not worry about that for now. What should we do now? Master God Diviner knew exactly what Long Batian was thinking. Even if Longao took away the divine artifact that sealed the Black Demon, the Black Demon wouldn't be able to leave the dark space. Why is that? Very few people in the martial heaven continent knew about the Black Devils. Long Batian knew that Hayamo was sealed in the dark dimension because of the regalia. If the regalia left, wouldn't Hayamo break the seal and leave? He smiled. The dark space itself is a huge seal. Unless the three of us take action, no one on the martial heaven continent will be able to break the seal. So that's how it is. Long Batian finally understood why Master God Diviner hadn't stopped Longao from taking away the divine artifact. In truth, Long Batian had another question. The divine artifact that sealed the Black Demon had unimaginable benefits when it came to protecting the soul. Since that was the case, why didn't Master God Diviner take it for himself? Brother Long, you must be curious as to why I didn't take the divine artifact. Correct. To be honest, Long Batian knew that the Heavenly Tao did not take away the divine artifact because it was afraid of Hayamo and did not dare to take away the divine artifact. However, Long Batian was certain that if the Heavenly Taos learned that the seal couldn't be broken even if they took the divine artifact, they would definitely take it. Brother Long, others might not know, but don't you know my situation? This divine artifact is useless to me. It might be useless to you, but it's useful to me. However, Long Batian couldn't fight over the divine artifact with Longao. He could only sigh helplessly inside. Master God Diviner smiled and didn't say anything. The dragon race. In the 9 heavens, at the peak of the clouds, the Heavenly Taos looked down at the dragon race, his expression growing darker and darker. He didn't know if Long Tian and the primordial divine dragons were still in this world. Furthermore, because of the Black Demon, he couldn't destroy the dragon race and the Long family. The Heavenly Taos feared the Black Demon. He wasn't afraid of the Master God Diviner, but he was afraid of the Black Demon. The reason was simple. The Black Demon was extremely evil and could kill without blinking. Even though he was the Heavenly Taos, as long as the Black Demon wanted to, he could attack at any time. As for the Master God Diviner, he had many misgivings. For example, the survival of the martial heaven continent. Black Demon. His voice was extremely cold. Because of the black demon, he had waited over 10,000 years. As the heavenly Daos, the ruler of the martial heaven continent, he wanted to destroy the dragon race and the Long family, but he had to be so timid. If word of this spread, no one would believe it. Heavenly Daos, let me give you a word of advice. Give up. The heavenly Daos sneered at the Master God Diviner. Because the Master God Diviner had many misgivings, the heavenly Daos didn't fear him at all. In the martial heaven continent, the only person he feared was the black demon. However, the black demon was sealed in the dark space. As long as the seal wasn't broken, the black demon wouldn't be able to leave the dark space. Master God Diviner, the martial heaven continent is within reach. Do you want to shed all pretense with me? Sighing inside, the Master God Diviner helplessly said, Heavenly Daos, since you already know, why are you still so stubborn? Long Tian and the primordial divine dragons have already died. Why are you so stubborn? Once you release the black demon, I trust you know the consequences better than me. So what if I know? I'm still far from your realm. No matter what, I have to reach your level. Master God Diviner, as long as you're willing to help me, I can swear a blood oath to help you protect the martial heaven continent. As for the dragon race and the Long family, I won't interfere. What do you think? The Master God Diviner didn't immediately reply. He lowered his head and began to think. This matter was too important. If he took one wrong step, it would lead to many more mistakes. At that time, the consequences would be unimaginable. The Master God Diviner didn't believe in the heavenly Daos. Otherwise, he wouldn't have waited until now. Back when he had helped the heavenly Daos break through to the peak of the martial path, he would have directly helped the heavenly Daos reach his own level. Should he agree or not? For a moment, the Master God Diviner didn't know what to choose. As for the heavenly Daos, they didn't rush him. The two of them were silent, each with their own ulterior motives. Time passed by slowly. After an unknown amount of time, the Master God Diviner coughed twice. Heavenly Daos, will you really swear a blood oath? Chapter 1294. He nodded. The heavenly Tao was pleasantly surprised. If he could really reach the level of the godly mathematician, it would be worth it even if he had to swear a blood oath. Godly mathematician, this matter is beneficial to you. It's not up to you to decide whether it's beneficial or not. The godly mathematician's face was obviously ugly because he was not sure if the heavenly Tao would turn against him or even endanger the safety of the continent if he helped the heavenly Tao. But since things had already come to this point, how could he not agree? There were internal and external troubles. Come with me. Okay. He was extremely surprised. He had been waiting for this opportunity for 10,000 years. Now, it had finally arrived. With the departure of the heavenly Tao, the origin seal of the dragon race had also disappeared without a trace. The seal had disappeared? The 9 heavens divine dragons who were worried about the origin seal were all dumbfounded. They did not know what had happened and why the origin seal had suddenly disappeared. Originally, the dragon race should have been happy that the seal had disappeared. But in the end, no one in the dragon race was happy because no one knew why the origin seal had disappeared for no reason. No one knew if there was something fishy going on. The more one did not know something, the more one did not know the danger. The moment the origin seal disappeared, the 9 heavens divine dragon immediately left the dragon race and headed to the Long family. Long family. In the main hall. Old brother, you're out? Looking at the 9 heavens divine dragon who had suddenly appeared in front of him, Long Ditian was extremely surprised. The 9 heavens divine dragon's face was a little ugly, but the relationship between the dragon race and the Long family was there, so he could not completely fall out with him. The origin seal has disappeared. What's going on? Shaking his head, the 9 heavens divine dragon expressed that he did not know either. Long Ditian, let's put this matter aside first. I have something to ask you. Looking at the serious face of the 9 heavens divine dragon, Long Ditian was a little curious and said, Old brother, I know that you are angry with me because I did not save the dragon race. He shook his head. Long Ditian, do you know the whereabouts of the divine dragon pearl? Divine dragon pearl? Not knowing why the heavenly divine dragon mentioned the divine dragon pearl for no reason, Long Tion shook his head curiously and said, "Old brother, you're too good at joking. If I knew the whereabouts of the divine dragon pearl, I would have handed it to you long ago. Why would I wait until now?" Really? Hearing the strange tone of the heavenly divine dragon, Long Tion became even more curious. He did not know what had happened. "Old brother, given our relationship, there's no need to beat around the bush. If there's anything you want to say, just say it." "All right." In the following time, the Nine Heavens divine dragon roughly recounted everything that had happened before. The more he heard, the uglier his expression became. Long Tion was not an idiot, and he knew that Longao was doing this to sow discord between the Long family and the dragon race. It had to be said that Longao was truly sinister. "Old brother, there's no need to talk about our relationship. I can swear to the heavens that if I know the whereabouts of the divine dragon pearl and don't give it to you, I will die a horrible death." Looking deeply at his old brother in front of him, the heavenly divine dragon was unwilling to believe that Long Tion was such a person. Could it be that Long Ao was doing this on purpose? Since that's the case, since Long Ao has already obtained the divine dragon pearl, why did he give it to me? Regarding this point, the heavenly divine dragon could not understand. After all, he knew very well what the divine dragon pearl meant. "Old brother, sit." Long Tion was almost certain that Long Ao was doing this to sow discord. He definitely did not have any good intentions. Since that's the case, then let's leave it at that. This time, the origin source seal suddenly disappeared without a trace. In my opinion, it might not be a good thing. He nodded in agreement. Long Tion thought for a moment, then said helplessly, "Back then, the two old ancestors fought with the heavenly Tao and eventually fell. The heavenly Tao has never been willing to let the matter rest, and has not made a move for so many years. As for why it suddenly made a move, no one knows. Then what should we do now?" Whether it was the Dragon Clan or the Long family, they were all very afraid of the heavenly Tao. As the number one person in the continent, if the heavenly Tao wanted to destroy the Dragon Clan and the Long family, it was simply a simple matter. Neither of them knew when the heavenly Tao would make a move. If this continued, the Dragon Clan and the Long family would always be in great danger. What should they do? Long Tion and the heavenly divine dragon looked at each other and saw deep helplessness in each other's eyes. Not to mention the current strength of the Dragon Clan and the Long family, even if the two old ancestors were reborn, they would not be a match for the heavenly Tao. The heavenly Tao suddenly withdrew the origin source seal this time. We have to think of a way to deal with it. Long Tion and the heavenly divine dragon were almost certain that the origin source seal was removed by the heavenly Tao itself. After all, other than the divine mathematician, how many people could do the origin source seal? Not long after, Long Hang and the others entered in a single file. "Great Elder, how did the matter go?" Long Tion was a little impatient, because the secret technique in Long Ao's hands was too important to them. Therefore, the Long family did not hesitate to shed all pretense of cordiality with Long Ao to obtain the secret technique. Shaking his head helplessly, Long Hang said helplessly, "Long Ao's speed is too fast. Even with the 11 of us working together, we can't catch up to him. However, Patriarch, don't worry. We have already arranged everything around the ancestral hall. As long as Long Ao appears, we will take him down. As for the Long Ao wanting to enter the ancestral hall, it is impossible." Although he was a little unwilling in his heart, Long Tion knew that Long Ao would definitely not let the matter rest and think of a way to enter the ancestral hall. If that was the case, they would definitely be able to take down Long Ao. Since that's the case, First Elder, I'll give you full authority to handle this matter. Remember, don't kill Long Ao. Just capture him for me. I'd like to see if Long Ao's secret technique is as simple as the legends say. All right. From the beginning to the end, the heavenly divine dragon did not say anything, because he had already promised Long Ao that from now on, the dragon sect and the dragon clan would not interfere with each other. He would not deal with Long Ao, and the dragon clan would not interfere with the grudges between the dragon sect and the Long family. For some reason, the heavenly divine dragon had a bad premonition in his heart and that was that this Longao was not simple at all. For the sake of insurance, he did not want to provoke Longao. In such troubled times, it was best to protect himself. As for the grudges between the Long family and Longao, he had already decided not to interfere. Long Dition seemed to understand that he did not force the heavenly divine dragon, because he had full confidence that with the family's strength, it was more than enough to deal with the Longao. Chapter 1295. Walking in the Black Passage, Longao could be said to be very careful and alert. The Black Passage seemed to be able to enter the dark space. Until now, Longao did not know whether the Black Demon was an enemy or a friend. In any case, when he entered the dark space, the Black Demon did not kill him with his powerful strength. He really could not figure it out. Step by step, he walked slowly. He did not know how long he walked. A dim light appeared in front of him. Longao was suddenly happy, but he was still careful and quickened his pace. Soon, he had reached the end. A huge stone house. The layout of the stone house was simple. Except for a stone table, 2 stone stools, there was only a stone portrait on the opposite wall. Longao carefully entered the stone house and began to look around. Bai Ling, is the divine artifact you mentioned here? Yes, Brother Long. Be careful. Longao nodded. According to Bai Ling and Long Fu, the dark space was sealed in this stone house. He came to the stone portrait. It looked familiar. After taking a closer look, Longao found that the portrait on the stone wall was none other than the Long family's ancestor, Longao. He was also his ancestor, but Longao had never admitted it. According to Bai Ling, the divine artifact was hidden in the stone portrait in front of him. Although he did not believe it, Longao did not doubt Bai Ling's words. He tried to release his divine soul and slowly enter the stone portrait. Before Longao could react, his whole body flew out in an instant. He vomited blood, his face was pale, and his body was on the verge of collapse. Climbing up from the ground with difficulty, Longao's face was very gloomy. He had just released his divine soul and had only slightly touched the stone portrait when he was attacked by the terrifying airflow in the portrait. If it were not for his defense, he believed that he would have been killed by the airflow attack. What a terrifying airflow attack! Was this the sealing power that sealed the dark space? Brother Long, if you want to get the divine artifact, you can't choose to fight force with force. Then what should I do? Ignoring his injured body, since he was already here, Longao certainly would not give up. He would not leave the stone house without getting the divine artifact. He seemed to be able to guess Longao's thoughts. Brother Long, let me help you. No. As soon as Xiling's voice sounded, his figure appeared in the stone house. Xiling stared fiercely at Longao in front of him and said angrily, Longao, even if you want to save Yuan, you can't sacrifice my sister. Hearing Xiling's words, Long was directly, what the hell is going on? Why would he sacrifice Bai Ling for no reason? From the beginning to the end, Longao did not know what was going on and was confused. Longao, the divine artifact that sealed the dark space, exists in the portrait on the stone wall. My sister and I are just Jianling. Without the original body, if we try to take the divine artifact from the portrait on the stone wall by force, only death will await us. If that happens, we won't even have the chance to reincarnate. So that's it. How could Longao let Bai Ling take the risk? Moreover, it was a matter of life and death. Bai Ling's figure appeared. She seemed to be very dissatisfied with her sister, but Bai Ling had always been kind. Even if she was unhappy, she could only swallow it and not do anything. Brother Long, I just want to help you. Xiao Chun sighed deeply in his heart. What a silly girl. Bai Ling's kindness really made one feel sorry for her and helpless. Bai Ling, I've said it before. No matter if it's you or Yuan, you are both people that I, Longao, can never lose in my life. If I have to sacrifice you to save Yuan, I'd rather sacrifice myself. Before Bai Ling could speak, Longao continued, no matter what happens, I hope that you can protect yourself. Don't make me worry if something happens to you. Longao did not continue, but the meaning in his words was very clear. Longao could make a scene at the Martial Artists Alliance for Yuan. regardless of life and death. Then, for Bai Ling, he could do anything regardless of life and death. Bai Ling was very touched and nodded. Then what should I do now? Longao did not continue to think about this problem, because the most important thing now was to find a way to deal with the stone wall portrait and get the so-called divine weapon from inside. Longao knew very well that with Yu Yin's situation, the more time they wasted, the more danger she would be in. Xiling thought for a moment, looked at the stone wall portrait in front of her, and said, "It's not realistic to break the seal and get the divine weapon inside. Moreover, we don't have to release Heimo, sister. What should we do now?" Bai Ling seemed to be a little impatient, because she did not want Brother Long to worry. With her and her sister's strength, it would be very difficult to break the seal, unless they could recover their original strength, but it would be very difficult. Longao, there's only one way now, and that is to enter the seal yourself and get the divine weapon. This way, as long as the seal is not broken, Heimo will not be able to escape. It's killing two birds with one stone. Sister, if we do this, Brother Long will be in great danger. Sister, I know you're worried about Longao, but this is the best way. Without giving Bai Ling a chance to continue, Longao nodded and said, I choose to enter the stonewall portrait. Xiling, what should I do to get in? Longao knew that with his own strength, he would not be able to enter the painting on the stone wall. However, he knew that since Xiling had said so, there must be a way to help him. Hence, he was not worried about this at all. As for the danger, he was not afraid of any danger when he entered the Long family. He could make a scene in the Martial Artists Alliance for Yuan, and he did not even care about Tongzun, let alone the danger now. Therefore, Longao had decided that he would face any danger, no matter what. Everything was for Yuan. Longao, although we can't break the seal, I can send you in. As expected, he did as he said. Longao was very anxious. He did not want Yuan to be in any danger. Therefore, in the following time, Longao prepared well. He glanced at Xiling, and Xiling nodded. Then, Xiling suddenly released a terrifying aura, which directly enveloped Longao. Before Longao could react, his whole body had already moved toward the stone wall portrait. In the next second, Longao's body had already passed through the stone wall portrait and entered the space of the stone wall. The space was very big, and there was a strange and mysterious airflow everywhere, which seemed to be able to devour a warrior's divine soul. Longao, who had just entered the space of the stone wall, touched this airflow, and his face changed greatly. He immediately began to resist with all his strength. Chapter 1296. The terrifying airflow was crazily devouring Longao's spiritual soul. If it was an ordinary Supreme Tao warrior, his spiritual soul would have been devoured by the airflow before he could react, and he would have died. But Longao had been extra careful. Not to mention, Longao had entered the stone wall space and released all his power to form an air shield outside his body. Even so, Longao felt that his body was slowly being devoured by the airflow. Although the devouring speed was not very fast, at this rate, Longao was very clear that it would not take long for his soul to be completely devoured by the airflow. He had to think of a way as soon as possible. What should he do? Longao tried to sense Xiling, Bai Ling, and Long Fu. As expected, after entering the stone wall space, he could no longer communicate with Xiling, Bai Ling, and Long Fu. In other words, he had to rely on himself here. He had to find the seal first. According to Xiling, the divine weapon was the seal. As long as he found the seal, he would naturally find the divine weapon. Then, he would have to think of a way to leave the stone wall space. The stone wall space was very big, and it was not easy to find the seal. Longao tried to resist the airflow around him while trying to locate the location. East, south, west, and north. Which direction should he go? He thought about it. Finally, Longao locked on to the east. Without any hesitation, he immediately sped up. His body soared to the highest speed, and in the blink of an eye, his body had disappeared without a trace. In the stonewall space, a huge black vortex was madly devouring the airflow around it. From afar, it was extremely spectacular. Longao's luck was really good. Out of the 4 directions, he only chose the east, and thus locked on to the seal. Because the seal of the stone wall space was in the east, which was the so-called black vortex. Longao looked at the black vortex in front of him and did not act rashly. The black vortex, where the seal was. He stared at the black whirlpool. Strictly speaking, he was staring at the red snow lotus floating in the black whirlpool. Longao was very clear in his heart that the red snow lotus was a legendary divine artifact, a divine artifact that sealed the dark space. After much consideration, Longao decided not to act personally. There were too many unknowns in the black vortex. Once one entered, who knew what would happen? That was indeed the case. In the end, Longao decided to use the Samsara immortal avatar. No matter what, the avatar had an immortal body. Even if he encountered danger in the black vortex, he believed that it would not be completely destroyed. Taking a step back, even if his clone was destroyed, as long as he didn't die, everything would be worth it. Do as you think. A moment later, Longao summoned his Samsara immortal avatar and ordered, "Retrieve the blood lotus for me." "Yes, master." The Samsara immortal avatar did not have the slightest consciousness. In this world, the Samsara immortal avatar would only listen to one person's orders, and that was Longao's orders. The Samsara immortal avatar's body darted out. In the blink of an eye, the Samsara immortal avatar had entered the black vortex. Longao's decision was correct. If he entered the black vortex himself, he would be destroyed by it. However, the Samsara immortal avatar's situation was completely different. Stepping into the black vortex, the Samsara immortal avatar smoothly arrived beside the blood lotus. Without any hesitation, the Samsara immortal avatar's hands grabbed the blood lotus. Seeing that the Samsara immortal avatar had already obtained the blood lotus, Longao was delighted. Before Longao could finish rejoicing, the Samsara immortal avatar began to tremble. Just what had happened? He was startled. Not daring to be careless, Longao immediately willed the Samsara immortal avatar to disappear into the black vortex with the blood lotus and return to his body. This was the Samsara immortal avatar's heaven-defying ability. As long as Longao willed it, the Samsara immortal avatar would instantly return to his body. If he had entered the black vortex himself, he would probably be dead by now. Not knowing what had happened to the Samsara immortal avatar, Longao was very worried. In the next moment, the Samsara immortal avatar reappeared beside him. However, the Samsara immortal avatar looked very dispirited. It was just as Xiling had guessed. Even if he had entered the space of the stone wall and obtained the blood lotus, it would not have much effect on the seal. This was what Longao wanted to see the most. Unless it was a last resort, no one would be willing to release Hayamo. As for why there was no effect, Longao could not figure it out. Under normal circumstances, the blood lotus was the seal of the dark space. Once he obtained the blood lotus, the seal would be broken and Hayamo would leave the dark space. However, the result was exactly the opposite. Longao knew that there was only one explanation for the disappearance of the blood-colored lotus, but the seal was not broken. That was, the blood-colored lotus was not a sealing artifact of the dark space at all. If that was the case, it might not be a bad thing for him. After obtaining the blood lotus successfully, Longao let out a long sigh of relief. Yu'in could be saved. This long family trip and risking their lives to enter the space of the stone wall was not in vain. Half-squatting, Longao began to check what had happened to the Samsara immortal avatar. After a brief observation, Longao already knew that if he had not summoned the Samsara immortal avatar in time, the Samsara immortal avatar would have been trapped by the black vortex. The consequences would have been unimaginable. Fortunately, the Samsara immortal avatar was very powerful. It had the power of samsara as its foundation. Even if it was hit by the black vortex, as long as it had enough time to devour it, the Samsara immortal avatar would not be harmed. If it were anyone else, they would have already died after being hit by the black vortex. Taking the blood lotus from the Samsara immortal avatar, Longao could clearly feel the powerful aura exuding from the blood lotus. As long as this aura was integrated with his spirit, Longao had full confidence that he could increase the strength of his spirit by more than 10 times. Such a divine artifact was probably a treasure that warriors yearned for in their dreams. However, Longao did not have the slightest greed. The reason was very simple. This divine artifact had to be integrated with Yu'in. Only then could he save Yu'in. With the divine artifact in hand, there was no point in staying any longer. Longao got up and prepared to leave. However, at this moment, the black vortex suddenly spun wildly and spread in all directions at an extremely fast speed. In the blink of an eye, the black vortex had reached Longao's feet. It only needed a second to devour Longao. It could be said that he was in imminent danger. Chapter 1297. He didn't dare to be the slightest bit careless. Longao couldn't use instant teleportation. He could only rely on pure speed. The black whirlpool was extremely fast. If it weren't for Longao's cultivation base, he would have already been enveloped by it. Even so, if Longao couldn't find the exit in a short time, the consequences would be unimaginable. The space in the stone wall was extremely large. At a glance, it seemed boundless. Before Longao had entered, he had asked Xiling about it. According to Xiling, even she didn't know where the exit was. That was the greatest danger of this space. In the outer sea, in the Crystal Palace, looking at Master God Diviner, the heavenly Daos expression was extremely gloomy. Master God Diviner, are you toying with me? Am I? Master God Diviner shrugged helplessly. Master God Diviner, I've already sworn a blood oath. You have to fulfill your promise. Master God Diviner, having me as a helper won't do you any harm. The heavenly Daos heart was filled with fury, like a volcano on the verge of erupting. However, the heavenly Daos knew his own limits. With his current strength, he had no chance against Master God Diviner. Heavenly Daos, you should be very clear that at our level, it's almost impossible to advance quickly. The heavenly Daos didn't say anything. The heavenly Daos knew that Master God Diviner's words weren't wrong. At this level, even a single advancement was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Otherwise, with his talent and potential, he would have only advanced one level in 10,000 years. Heavenly Daos, I don't know about others, but I trust that you'll be able to help me. The heavenly Daos had always believed that Master God Diviner was omnipotent. It was precisely because of Master God Diviner that he had been able to successfully merge with the core energy of the heavenly Daos and become a peak existence on the martial path. The heavenly Daos had always been grateful to Master God Diviner, but as he grew stronger, his heart began to change. He wanted to kill Master God Diviner and dominate the martial heaven continent, becoming the true #1 expert. As for Long Batian, he hadn't even placed him in his eyes. It could be said that on the martial heaven continent, there were only two people the heavenly Daos truly feared. One was the God Diviner, and the other was the sealed Mo. Just as the heavenly Tao had guessed, the oracle had a way to help him, but would the oracle do so? Master God Diviner had his misgivings. After all, Master God Diviner wasn't sure if the Tao of Heaven would betray him if he helped it break through. Master God Diviner wouldn't make a move unless he was absolutely certain. Heavenly Tao, I have already said that I have no other way. I have already told you the only way, but you are unwilling to try it. I have no other choice. He did not give the heavenly Tao any chance to speak. He did not even care that the heavenly Axiom's face was already extremely gloomy. Heavenly Tao, Long Batian will soon leave the martial heaven continent. What does it have to do with me whether or not he leaves the martial heaven continent? The heavenly Daos were also depressed. Whether or not Long Batian left the martial heaven continent had nothing to do with him. The only thing he cared about was whether or not he could break through and become a God Diviner. If it weren't for the fact that he was afraid of the oracle's power, the heavenly Daos would probably be infuriated. Whether or not it has anything to do with me is your problem. I have already told you the method. Heavenly Tao, let me give you a word of advice. You have to hurry up. If you fall behind, even if you want to continue in the future, you won't have the time. Looking at the oracle, the heavenly Tao's expression grew even uglier. Did he not care? Or should he listen to the oracle's method and leave the martial heaven continent, choosing the method of life and death? He was in a dilemma. If he said that he didn't want to break through, he would be lying. After cultivating for over 10,000 years, he had only advanced a single level. The heavenly Tao was very depressed. Furthermore, he knew that if he continued to cultivate steadily like this, he would have to wait countless years before he could break through to the oracle's level. Did he really have to risk it all? Once he left the martial heaven continent, the chances of him dying were very high. He was already the second strongest person on the martial heaven continent. As long as he didn't provoke the oracle, the heavenly Tao would know that he was the strongest person on the martial heaven continent. That was because the oracle wouldn't fight with him. But would the heavenly Tao do that? The heavenly Tao wanted to defeat the oracle and become the strongest person on the continent. Otherwise, after so many years, he wouldn't have been able to constantly push himself to cultivate so that he could surpass the oracle. But the result was the oracle's height was too high. It was very difficult to surpass him. Heavenly Tao, if you want to surpass me, this is the only way. The only way. The heavenly Tao felt very helpless. From start to finish, he hadn't been able to understand the oracle. He had thought that once his cultivation base broke through, he would be able to defeat the oracle. But the result was that in just 3 moves, he had been defeated. What did that mean? There was no doubt about it. The oracle's power was too terrifying. As for what realm the oracle had reached, even the heavenly Tao didn't know. The heavenly Tao knew that this was the only way, but he still didn't want to take the risk. What if he died outside? The oracle didn't continue. He smiled at the heavenly Tao. The oracle sat down and slowly raised his teacup, taking a sip. He seemed very relaxed, as if he didn't place the heavenly Tao in his eyes at all. The more the oracle acted like this, the more the heavenly Tao feared him. He was mysterious and unfathomable. That was the only way to describe him. The heavenly Tao and the oracle didn't say anything. The entire palace was very calm and quiet. Time slowly passed. After an unknown amount of time, the heavenly Tao suddenly asked, "What are my chances of coming back alive?" The divine mathematician's Tao of divination was something that even the heavenly Tao admired. Therefore, he really wanted to know what his chances of coming back alive were. 50-50. Hearing Master God Diviner's words, the heavenly Tao was completely helpless. There was only a 50% chance of coming back alive. This was not good news, and the heavenly Tao did not have the slightest bit of doubt. Master God Diviner's Tao of divination was very powerful, and it was almost impossible for him to be wrong. Would the heavenly Tao choose a 50-50 chance? He thought about it. In the end, the heavenly Tao nodded. Since that's the case, I'll try leaving the martial heaven continent. Oracle, if I can come back alive, I'll challenge you. The oracle smiled. He seemed to have guessed that the heavenly Tao would make such a choice. He wasn't the slightest bit surprised. He nodded and directly said that he would accompany the heavenly Tao at any time. Since he had already said that, Tian Tao didn't continue with his nonsense. He turned around and left. After a while, Tian Tao's figure disappeared without a trace. Only Master Godly Mathematician was left in the Crystal Palace. Chapter 1298. As soon as the heavenly Taoist left, Longao appeared. Master God Diviner, if the heavenly Taoist break through, it won't be good for either of us. Longao was very worried. As the saying went, it was better to be safe than sorry. If the heavenly Taoists were lucky and made consecutive breakthroughs, they would have gone for wool and come home shorn. The Master God Diviner smiled helplessly. At the same time, the Master God Diviner shrugged helplessly. There's nothing I can do. Longao was a bit surprised to hear that. Perhaps others didn't know, but he definitely knew. The Master God Diviner wasn't just the #1 expert of the martial heaven continent. His Tao of divination was unparalleled. With his power, killing the heavenly Taoist would be as easy as flipping his hand. Since that was the case, why didn't the Master God Diviner do anything? The Master God Diviner seemed to see through Long Baishan's doubts. Brother Long, do you know why I chose the heavenly Taoist back then? He shook his head. Longao had never been able to figure it out. After all, The martial heaven continent had so many martial artists. Why had the Master God Diviner chosen the heavenly Daos instead of anyone else? The Master God Diviner sighed deeply. The heavenly Daos constitution is different from ordinary people. If it were someone else, it would have taken tens of thousands of years. But for the heavenly Daos, it only took 100 years. Back then, I had no choice but to choose the heavenly Daos. So that was the case. Longao was extremely envious of the heavenly Daos constitution and talent. To be able to break through to the peak of the martial path in just 100 years was a miracle in itself. If the Master God Diviner hadn't personally said it, he wouldn't have believed it even if he was beaten to death. Longao now knew that the Master God Diviner wasn't omnipotent. There were times when he was helpless. The heavenly Daos were perhaps the greatest variable. The Master God Diviner definitely hadn't expected the heavenly Daos to break free from his control. The heavenly Daos left the martial heaven continent this time, so the chances of him breaking through are less than 50%. If he really can break through, it won't be a bad thing for me. Master God Diviner, aren't you afraid that the heavenly Daos will deal with us? Confidently smiled. The heavenly Daos alone won't be enough. As he spoke, a terrifying aura erupted from Master God Diviner's body, instantly enveloping the entire crystal palace. Longbao's SSSSS. Shock. Unbelievable. There was even a trace of fear on Longbao's face. All kinds of expressions appeared on his face, which was very strange and funny. Domain. Before Longao could finish his words, the oracle waved his hand. It's very difficult for the heavenly Tao to reach my level. At this moment, Longao finally understood why the heavenly Daos were so confident. If that was the case, then the heavenly Daos had underestimated Master God Diviner. If the oracle wasn't completely confident, would he have helped the heavenly Tao? Brother Long, with your talent, it will be very difficult for you to continue breaking through in this lifetime. He nodded. No one knew his own situation better than him. Longao knew that it would be extremely difficult for him to continue making breakthroughs. Otherwise, he wouldn't have stagnated and been suppressed by the heavens for so many years. If he didn't want to continue breaking through, it was definitely impossible. Divine Mathematician, do you have any ideas? Master God Diviner knew exactly what Longao was asking. He thought about it. Master God Diviner held Longao in high regard, because he knew that Longao was different from the Tao of Heaven. No matter what happened, Longao would never betray him. Master God Diviner was very confident in that. Brother Long, if you're not afraid of danger, I have a way. If you succeed, I can guarantee that you'll advance by at least 2 levels. 2 levels? Longao knew very well what 2 levels meant. If he could break through 2 levels in a row, it would be like a pie falling from the sky. Not to mention, 2 levels of advancement would not only double his strength, but also make a qualitative leap. He was pleasantly surprised to the extreme. Divine Mathematician, you should understand my situation. Instead of living like this for the rest of my life, I might as well try. If I succeed, I'll soar to the sky. Even if I fail, I'll die without regrets. Longao clenched his fists. He had decided that no matter what happened, he would give it a try. Longao nodded. Master God Diviner understood what Longao was thinking. He helplessly said, your chances of success are lower than the heavenly Daos. Based on my calculations, your chances of success are less than 10%. I'll ask you one last time. Are you willing to try? 10%? Hearing this, Longao smiled helplessly. 10%. Didn't that mean that he would definitely die if he tried? After all, 10% meant that he had to rely on luck. If he was unlucky, he would definitely die this time. Should he try? Or should he give up? Master God Diviner didn't press him. He knew that this was a difficult decision for anyone. It was a matter of life and death. At their cultivation bases, even if they didn't continue breaking through, they could still walk unhindered on the martial heaven continent. Longao could be said to be the 3rd strongest person on the martial heaven continent. As long as he didn't provoke the heavenly Tao or Master God Diviner, who would dare provoke him? Furthermore, the heavenly Tao had already left the martial heaven continent. Whether or not he could return was still unknown. Once the heavenly Tao died, Master God Diviner would no longer care about worldly matters. Then wouldn't he be able to dominate the martial heaven continent? Long Baishan's expression changed again and again. At this moment, he was stuck between a rock and a hard place. So what if he could dominate the martial heaven continent? He would just be a frog in a well. Long Batian knew that only by getting stronger could he be successful. No matter what happened, he wouldn't have to be afraid. Power. Power was everything. Without power, everything else was meaningless. Thinking of that, Long Batian clenched his teeth and resolutely said, "Master God Diviner, I've decided to give it a try." Master God Diviner nodded. "Since that's the case, I'll do my best to help you. I trust that your chances of success will increase to 70%. Perhaps that will be the case once you come out." At this point, Master God Diviner didn't say anything further. As for Long Batian, he looked very excited. After all, he had no idea if the Tao of Heaven would be able to break through and return, and if it did, then he would have to work even harder to do so. Master God Diviner nodded. He knew that Long Batian was impatient, so he led him away. The two of them vanished without a trace. Chapter 1299. Longao thought that he was fast, but in the end, in less than 3 minutes, he was covered by the black vortex and swallowed. The speed of the black vortex was too fast. Even Longao could only be swallowed. Oh no! The moment he was swallowed, Longao was shocked. Not daring to be careless, Longao used the power in his body to set up a layer of air shield around his body, hoping to block the invasion of the black vortex. Even so, the black vortex's airflow rushed into Longao's body and started to destroy. According to this speed and situation, he believed that it wouldn't take long for Longao to be completely eroded, and even his soul would not be left behind. The black vortex was like a dark hell that could swallow everything. Longao felt that his flesh and divine soul were being eroded constantly. In shock, he could only use the reincarnation avatar. The reincarnation avatar and Longao overlapped each other, temporarily blocking the black vortex's airflow outside. What should I do? The black vortex around him began to stop. Longao stood quietly but could not move, like a zombie. The surroundings were dark and misty. What the hell is this place? Longao did not wait for death. He did not want to die here. He slowly released his divine soul. He was pleasantly surprised because after the black vortex stopped, not only did it not continue to corrode, even when he released his divine soul, he did not suffer any counterattack. He finally breathed a sigh of relief. Longao's cultivation had successfully broken through the man-god realm. He was halfway through the 5 realms of divine path. In other words, now Longao's divine soul was very strong. Not only was it stronger than the divine soul of the same level, even an earth god realm martial artist could not compete with Longao. With the strength of Longao's divine soul now, it was completely comparable to a heavenly god realm martial artist. Longao roughly calculated. With the strength of his divine soul, he could release it far away. His divine soul could be released thousands of meters away. Surprised, Longao seemed to be very surprised. So the real seal isn't the blood lotus, but the black vortex. Longao could clearly sense that there was a place 1,000 meters away, which should be the center of the black vortex. That was the so-called true seal. As for the power of the seal, there was no need to say more. Even with his strength, he was no match for the seal. It was not hard to imagine how terrifying the seal was for it to be able to suppress the black demon, circulate the 9 cycles of reincarnation. Right at this moment, the mysterious youth's voice suddenly rang out in Longao's mind. He was very surprised, wondering why the mysterious youth wanted him to circulate the 9-cycle reincarnation art. However, Longao still chose to believe in the mysterious youth. Although he wasn't sure if he was the mysterious youth's reincarnation, there was one thing that Longao could be sure of, and that was that the mysterious youth wouldn't harm him. 9-cycle reincarnation technique. How did the mysterious youth know about the 9 revolutions reincarnation technique? One had to know that the 9 revolutions reincarnation technique was a heaven-defying cultivation method derived from the dragon seal. However, at this moment, Longao couldn't care about anything else. He had to deal with the black vortex first. The 9 revolutions reincarnation technique in his body began to circulate. With Longao's current strength, there was only a trace of the power of reincarnation in his body. However, this trace of power of reincarnation started to circulate wildly as soon as it appeared. Shocked, Longao didn't know what was going on at all. He could move now. Overjoyed, Longao didn't dare to hesitate at all and was ready to leave the black vortex. However, at this moment, the mysterious youth's voice rang out in his mind again. Head to the seal? What did the mysterious youth want to do? He was very reluctant, but at this moment, the situation was critical. Longao didn't think too much and walked out of the seal step by step. It could be said that he was very careful and alert. At the seal that sealed the dark space was actually a gigantic black boulder that was a few hundred meters in size. In other words, it was squarish. The black vortex was emitted from the black boulder. Longao could sense how strong the black boulder was. Why did the mysterious youth ask him to come here? Before Longao could ask, the mysterious youth's voice rang out. Longao, try and get on the black boulder. See what happens. Holy F***CK. Upon hearing the mysterious youth's words, Longao cursed in his heart. He had seen shameless people before, but this was the first time he had seen someone as shameless as this. This was shameless to the extreme. Who the hell knew what the black boulder was? What if he got attacked by the black boulder and died? What should he do then? If he died, it wouldn't be the mysterious youth's death. This time around, Longao didn't make a move immediately. After all, the black boulder was way too strong. To be able to seal the black demon, one could imagine what sort of existence the black boulder was. Longao, are you afraid? I'm not afraid. I'm just not willing to take the risk. He had already obtained the blood lotus. As long as he left, Yu'in would be saved. Since that was the case, why should he take the risk? If nothing happened, everyone would be happy. If something happened, who would he look for? Longao wasn't afraid of danger, but he wouldn't give up his life for nothing. Longao, I can tell you clearly that if you miss this opportunity, you will definitely regret it. What did he mean? Longao knew very well that the mysterious youth wouldn't harm him. Since that was the case, he might as well give it a try. Staring at the black boulder in front of him, Longao still didn't act rashly. Instead, he sensed it. The mysterious youth didn't say anything else. After all, the decision was still made by Longao. After an entire hour, Longao didn't feel anything strange. He shrugged helplessly. Since things had already come to this point, he might as well give it a try. If it was an opportunity, who knows? Thinking of this, Longao finally took a step forward and slowly walked towards the black boulder in front of him. As usual, Longao was very careful. Step by step, Longao had already arrived in front of the black boulder. Only one step away from stepping on the black boulder. Whether he was alive or dead, Longao didn't know. Because in this situation, he could only choose to believe in the mysterious youth. However, Longao knew that he had no other choice. Because he had already been swallowed by the black vortex, wanting to leave the black vortex didn't seem to be an easy thing to do. After taking a deep breath, Longao gritted his teeth and took a step forward with his right foot. In the end, he still stepped on the black boulder without the slightest change. However, Longao still didn't dare to relax. His other foot also stepped on the black boulder. Both of his feet were standing on the black boulder. Chapter 1300. Nothing happened? Longao was curious. According to Longao's guess, once he stepped on the black rock, he would definitely be attacked by it. But now, the black rock was just like an ordinary rock. Continue forward to the center of the rock. He cursed in his heart. Longao took a step forward and walked towards the center of the black rock. On the surface of the black rock, there were traces of black air flowing. It looked extremely strange. Stepping on it was like stepping on an egg. It felt like it would break if he stepped on it, but when he stepped on it, he realized that nothing happened. A few minutes later, Longao had arrived at the center of the black rock. In the center of the black rock, there was a small pit with a pool of black water. Why did the mysterious young man ask him to come? Longao, I believe you have already guessed that the real seal of the dark space is this black rock. As for the pool of black water in front of you, if you touch a drop of it, you will be instantly corroded and die. Hearing the mysterious young man's words, Longao was shocked. A drop of it could corrode him instantly. It was terrifying just thinking about it. Longao did not doubt it at all because he knew that the mysterious young man had no reason to lie to him. Senior, why did you ask me to come? Longao was very curious. Longao, your Godslayer sword is already damaged and even sealed. Even if you can break the seal in the future, it is almost impossible to repair the damage. Longao did not say anything, but he was very surprised. Could it be that the mysterious young man wanted to get his hands on the God-Slayer sword? Regarding the power of the God-punishing sword, Longao actually did not know. He only knew one thing, and that was that the God-punishing sword and the blood pool complemented each other. Looking at the power of the blood pool, he would be able to know the power of the God-punishing sword. However, as the mysterious young man said, the God-Slayer sword was already damaged. Even if he could break the seal in the future, the God-Slayer sword would not be able to recover to its peak power. Longao, no weapon is as strong as yourself. What did he mean? Longao, as the reincarnation of my 100th reincarnation, there are some things that I must tell you. Longao still didn't say anything. It was still the same sentence. Even at this moment, he didn't dare to be sure whether he was the reincarnation of the other party or not. Back then, my physical body alone was comparable to all divine artifacts. Even the God-killing sword couldn't harm me in the slightest. Was this for real? Longao found it a little hard to believe. How could his physical defense be able to withstand the deity-slaying sword at its peak? However, Longao's intuition told him that what the mysterious youth said seemed to be true. So, Longao, you don't need to rely on anything. In the future, your body will be the strongest divine weapon. As for the God-slaying sword, it can be given to your reincarnated clone. Longao finally understood what the mysterious youth meant. Senior, even if I can reach the level of strength you speak of in the future, right now, if I don't have a weapon in hand, I will be at a disadvantage when fighting. Longao was not a fool. In a battle, having a weapon and not having a weapon were two completely different concepts. He wouldn't throw his life away for nothing. Longao, you can replace the sword with your finger, or continuously resist the attacks. At that time, your sacred desolation body will slowly become stronger. Once your sacred desolation body transforms into the sacred reincarnation body, even a martial artist stronger than you will find it difficult to break your physical defense. I see. Since the words had already been said to this extent, Longao also did not continue to hesitate. According to the mysterious youth, Longao threw the deity-slaying sword directly into the deep pit. While the deity-slaying sword absorbed the black water, it didn't affect the seal at all. As for Xiling and Bai Ling, Longao had already thought about it. The mysterious youth would transfer the two of them from the deity-slaying sword into the dragon seal space. After all, the deity-slaying sword would be the weapon of the reincarnation clone from now on. The process of the deity-slaying sword absorbing the black water wasn't very long. With the help of the mysterious youth, the seal of the deity-slaying sword had been broken and even repaired. In other words, the power of the deity-slaying sword had increased by 10 times. With the terrifying strength and immortal body of the reincarnation avatar, coupled with the god-killing sword at its peak, Longao had an intuition that with the current situation of the reincarnation avatar, even a divine realm martial artist could be killed directly. Senior, how do I leave? Let me send you on your way. Before he could react, before he could even be happy, Longao found that his body had already been enveloped by a layer of black light. In the next second, Longao's body had successfully appeared in the stone chamber. Then, Bai Ling and Xiling appeared. Bai Ling asked with a worried face, "Brother Long, are you okay?" Longao smiled and gave a rough account of what had happened in the space of the stone wall. However, he did not say a single word about the mysterious youth. Besides Bai Ling, no one else knew about the mysterious youth, including Xiling and Long Fu. From this point of view, Longao only trusted Bai Ling. Even Long Fu didn't trust him. After listening, Xiling and Bai Ling sighed. Although Longao played it down, the two of them knew that Longao's entry into the stone chamber was very dangerous. After exchanging a few words with Bai Ling, Longao was ready to get up and leave the ancestral hall and enter the stonewall space. Now that he had successfully obtained the Blood Lotus, he had to rush back to the Dragon Sect as fast as possible so that he could save Yuan. In the ancestral hall, Longao didn't go out immediately because he could clearly sense that there were 11 Nirvana Realm warriors guarding outside, including Long Heng. As soon as he appeared, he believed that he would be besieged by the 11 of them. At that time, it was unknown whether he would be able to leave successfully. However, Long Heng had a sage weapon that could interfere with space fluctuations. In this way, it would be difficult for him to teleport away. He didn't have full confidence that he could escape with speed alone. Longao didn't want to continue taking risks. Longao wasn't afraid of danger, but he wouldn't risk it for nothing unless he was a fool. After thinking about it, Longao couldn't think of a better way. In the end, he could only choose to continue using the reincarnation avatar to distract the 11 of them so that he could leave successfully. The reincarnation avatar now had the god-killing sword. Although its power had increased greatly, it was still a fool's dream to fight against the Nirvana Realm warriors alone. However, the reincarnation avatar was immortal and didn't fear the attacks of the Nirvana Realm warriors. This was the reincarnation avatar's greatest advantage. Go. Longao didn't hesitate and directly gave the order. Chapter 1301. The next moment, the reincarnation doppelganger had already rushed out. Before he arrived, the god-killing sword in his hand had already slashed out. Dozens of sword chi came out one after another. Long Heng and the other 11 people were guarding outside the ancestral hall, not daring to leave. Previously, when they did not succeed in taking down Longao, the 11 of them were already very depressed. However, the 11 of them were certain that Longao would definitely come again. From the beginning to the end, the 11 people did not realize that Longao and the reincarnation doppelganger were two different people. Not only that, even if they were beaten to death, they would not believe that Longao would appear in the ancestral hall. When did Longao enter the ancestral hall? No one knew. A Nirvana Realm warrior was a Nirvana Realm warrior. If it were a Supreme Tao warrior, he would be seriously injured if not killed by the sneak attack of the reincarnation doppelganger. The 11 people were indeed Nirvana Realm warriors. They had already sensed the fluctuation of the sword chi. The 11 people were shocked. They did not even have time to turn around. The 11 people released the aura of heaven and earth at the same time. Layers of aura overlapped and formed an aura shield behind them, which resisted the attack of the dozens of sword chi. Longao. Seeing Longao coming out of the ancestral hall, the 11 people were a little dumbfounded. They did not know what had happened. Why did Longao appear in the ancestral hall? The 11 of them seemed to already know what had happened. Their faces were extremely gloomy and ugly. Under the protection of the 11 people, Longao still entered the ancestral hall without being noticed. If this news spread out, where would their dignity go? Where would the Long family's dignity go? Longao, I advise you to surrender. Otherwise, don't blame us for being ruthless. The reincarnation doppelganger was expressionless and cold. Holding the god-slaying sword in his hand, the reincarnation avatar didn't waste any time talking to them. He dashed out once again. No one would believe that he had fought 11 Nirvana Realm martial artists alone if news of this spread. However, Longao was famous for his madness. How many people in the world dared to make trouble for the Martial Artists Alliance? Inside the ancestral hall, Longao watched the battle coldly. He had no intention of helping the reincarnated avatar. Longao was confident that with the strength of the reincarnation avatar, even if he could not kill the 11 people, it would be impossible for the 11 people to completely destroy the reincarnation avatar. Longao stared intently at the battle, looking for an opportunity to leave. The opportunity had come. Longao did not let go of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Using teleportation, he disappeared from the ancestral hall. Even if 11 people were beaten to death, they would never have guessed that Longao could condense a reincarnation doppelganger. With the help of spatial teleportation, Longao's body quickly disappeared, leaving behind only his reincarnation doppelganger to fight against the 11 of them. He was beginning to lose ground. In just a few seconds, the reincarnation avatar had already been attacked dozens of times. Fortunately, it was the reincarnation avatar. If it were any other martial artist, they would have been torn apart. It was precisely because of this. The more the 11 people fought, the more frightened they became. Could it be that Longao was immortal? Even if only one of them attacked Longao would be dead for sure. Not to mention that the 11 of them joined forces to attack Longao. However, in this case, the 11 people did not care about anything else. They only had one thought, which was to kill Longao directly to avoid future troubles. The order that Longao gave the reincarnation doppelganger was not to fight to the death. Instead, the reincarnation doppelganger would find a way to escape after he successfully left. Again, Longao had full confidence in the reincarnation doppelganger. Even if the 11 people joined forces, the reincarnation doppelganger would be able to escape successfully. As expected, the reincarnation doppelganger evaded the 11 people and turned to leave. It was so fast that even the 11 people were shocked. Disappeared? Again, the most terrifying thing about the reincarnation doppelganger was that it was immortal. More importantly, as long as Longao willed it, the reincarnation doppelganger would instantly return to his Dantian. The 11 people were dumbfounded because they did not know how Longao did it. Great Elder, what should we do now? I will report to the Patriarch first. Longao had successfully entered and left the ancestral hall. Longheng knew that although he was the great elder of the Long family, there were some things that he could not decide. Long family. In the great hall, hearing the great elder's report, Long Di Tian's face was extremely gloomy. The anger in his heart was like a volcano that could erupt at any time. A total of 11 elders had joined forces and Longao was able to enter the ancestral hall without anyone knowing. Who would believe that? Furthermore, it was one thing for Longao to enter the ancestral hall, but the result was that Longao had successfully left under the combined efforts of 11 people. Who would believe that Long Di Tian was not angry? However, Long Di Tian chose to swallow his anger because he knew that Longao was able to do it with the help of a spatial artifact. It was understandable if 1 or 2 people made a mistake, but if 11 people made a mistake at the same time, it should not be the fault of 11 people. Patriarch, what should we do now? Longao has successfully entered the ancestral hall. If we want to take the secret technique from him, it should not be that easy. We have already missed this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Long Di Tian was very depressed. From the beginning to the end, he had never thought that he would lose to Longao. However, it had already happened. Even if he regretted it 1,000 times, it was useless. Now, he had to think about how to salvage the situation. Great Elder, immediately send people to find the whereabouts of the dragon sect. Remember, no matter who it was, you did not kill them. I want to use the dragon sect to threaten Longao. At that time, even if he does not want to hand over the secret technique, it will be impossible. Okay. Longheng also knew the seriousness of the matter. He did not dare to hesitate and immediately turned to leave. Long Di Tian was the only one left in the hall, and he was very depressed. How did Longao do it without anyone noticing? This was because Long Di Tian knew very well that even he himself would not be able to do this, unless the heavenly Tao and the divine mathematician personally descended. Just what kind of spatial divine tool could have such a powerful power? Long Di Tian was already looking forward to it. If he could obtain this spatial artifact, he believed that it would be of great help to his strength. At that time, it would not be impossible for him to become an expert on the same level as Tong Zun. That was indeed the case. Long Di Tian wanted to leave so that he could obtain the spatial artifact. However, Longao was not simple. This also allowed Long Di Tian to confirm one thing. Previously, When Longao used the secret technique to cause trouble in the martial artists' alliance, although he did not know why he did not suffer a backlash, he knew that Longao should not be able to continue using the secret technique. Otherwise, wouldn't Longao be invincible? If that was the case, then he did not have to worry so much. At the very least, he did not have to worry about Longao causing trouble in the Long family. Chapter 1302. Long family left without a hitch. Longao couldn't wait any longer. He rushed to Dragon Sect at full speed. The result? When Longao successfully returned to the Dragon Sect, his entire person was stunned. He couldn't believe it. The entire underground of Dragon Peak was in a mess, as if there had been a great battle. There was no one in Dragon Sect. What the hell happened? Dragon Sect disappeared into thin air. Yuan, Dugubai, and Long Ying were all his loved ones, brothers, and family. No matter who they were, nothing could happen to them. Otherwise, he would feel guilty for the rest of his life. Calm down. Longao kept telling himself to calm down. Calm down, calm down. At this time, he couldn't be impulsive. Otherwise, he would panic. Once he panicked, it would delay time. Every minute he delayed, Dragon Sect would be in danger. Could it be the Martial Artists Alliance? Longao knew very well that if Dragon Sect chose to return to Jojo, they would definitely leave a message for him. Moreover, before discussing with him, Longao knew that his big brother and big brother Dugu wouldn't make a decision on their own. After all, moving back to Jojo was a big deal. The first possibility that came to Longao's mind was the Martial Artists Alliance, which was his sworn enemy. He made a scene in the Martial Artists Alliance and killed 2 deputy leaders. He believed that the Martial Artists Alliance wouldn't let him go. And if the Martial Artists Alliance couldn't find him, they would definitely deal with Dragon Sect. The Martial Artists Alliance had already made a move. It was just that they couldn't find Dragon Sect. Thinking of this, Longao was instantly enraged. Endless anger filled his entire body. No matter who it was, if they dared to touch his family, they would die. Brother Long, you must calm down. Xiling, Bai Ling, I need strength. I need more strength than before. Longao didn't want to delay any longer. He didn't know that once the Martial Artists Alliance caught Dragon Sect, the consequences would be unimaginable. Xiling and Bai Ling looked at each other. They could see the helplessness in each other's eyes. That was because neither of them knew who had captured Longzong. Longao's bottom line was the Dragon Sect, and no one dared to touch it. Longao, don't blame me for not reminding you. Even if we are willing to help you, and you can obtain great strength, with your endurance, you can only last for 5 minutes at most. 5 minutes? When he heard Xiling's words, it was as if a basin of cold water had been poured over him. Although Xiling did not finish his sentence, the meaning behind his words was clear. Longao knew what he meant. Longao was very clear about what was going on. He had already used his sword chi to forcefully break through to the Nirvana realm. He couldn't use such a secret technique a second time. Not only would he be able to hold on for 5 minutes, but it was also unknown whether he would be able to survive. But in this situation, Longao had no other choice. Xiling, Bai Ling, I beg of you. Longao was really anxious. Nothing could happen to the sect, especially Dugubai, Longying, and Yuan. Nothing could happen to them. Longao would rather sacrifice himself than let anything happen to the 3 of them. Sister, please help Brother Long. Seeing Longao so worried and anxious, Bai Ling felt her heart ache. She snorted coldly. Bai Ling, are you trying to kill Longao? Bai Ling was speechless. How could she not know what Xiling had just said? If he used the secret technique a second time, not only would he not be able to last for 5 minutes, he might even die. Longao, you have to know one thing. If you die, who will save the Dragon Sect? Your family? Not only the Dragon Sect, but your parents, grandfather, and others will also be in trouble. Without giving Longao any chance to speak, Xiling continued, Longao, I can tell you clearly that if you die, my sister and I will not meddle in other people's business. Before Bai Ling could speak, Xiling had already signaled with his eyes. The meaning was clear. Bai Ling sighed deeply in her heart, but did not say anything. Hearing Xiling's words, Longao finally calmed down. He knew that Xiling was right. If he died, not to mention saving the sect, even his family in the Jiuzhou continent would be in trouble. Wait a moment. After letting Xiling and Bai Ling enter the Dragon Seal space, Longao immediately took out the wordless heavenly book and sent his soul into the wordless heavenly book. After thinking for a while, Longao could only think of the mysterious young man. He did not know why, but he had a feeling that the mysterious young man was stronger than the clairvoyant master and the Hamo. Because of this, Longao wanted to find the mysterious young man to see if he could help him. No matter what, the strength of the Martial Artists Alliance was obvious. Moreover, with Tong Zun's arrival, even if he could use the sword chi of the origin a second time, he could only defeat Tong Tiandi. He could not defeat Tong Zun. Senior. Before Longao could finish speaking, the mysterious youth had already opened his mouth and said, Longao, I can't help you with this matter. Previously, when you forcefully broke through your strength, I have already said that I will only help you once. There will not be a second time. Don't think that you can do this every time. Your body can no longer bear it. How could Longao not know about his body's ability to take it? However, the fate of the sect was uncertain. If he did nothing and just waited here, he would not forgive himself. Senior, I hope that you can help me this time. Longao, you have to remember one thing. From now on, no matter what you face, you have to take it one step at a time. Don't think that you can solve everything by forcefully increasing your strength every time. If you don't have the strength, what about the second time and the third time? Hearing this, Longao was stunned. He was too anxious just now, so there were some things that he did not understand. Longao nodded and left the space of the wordless book. Just as the mysterious young man said, in this dog-eat-dog world, if one did not want to be bullied or even protect one's family, loved ones, and brothers, one had to be strong. If the Dragon Sect was one of the 10 forces, how many people would dare to provoke the Dragon Sect? In the end, it was still because he and the Dragon Sect were not strong enough. The disappearance of the sect this time fully proved this problem. Longao was incomparably angry in his heart. Moreover, he knew very well that he could not use the secret technique to increase his strength every time. The first time was fine, but what about the second time, the third time? The fourth time? Strength, in the end. He still needed strength. Longao knew that his cultivation speed was still too slow. Cultivation was a matter for the future. Right now, there was only one thing that he needed to do, and that was to find the sect as soon as possible. He could not delay any longer. Calm down. He had to calm down. He could not be impulsive. Chapter 1303. The Dragon Sect suddenly disappeared. Longao was like an ant on a hot pan, running around in circles anxiously. Lock onto the Martial Artists Alliance. However, Longao did not act recklessly. Otherwise, not only would he not be able to save Dragon Sect, but he would also be killed by the Martial Artists Alliance. Brother Long, what are you going to do? Let's go to the Martial Artists Alliance first. Hearing this, Bai Ling finally let out a sigh of relief. Fortunately, Longao was not blinded by anger. Otherwise, if he went to the Martial Artists Alliance rashly, the consequences would be unimaginable. Brother Long, be careful. He nodded. How could Longao not know Bai Ling's worries? Just as Longao was about to go to the Martial Artists Alliance to find out more information, Longao's expression changed. His face was full of worry and fear. Brother Long, I have to go back to the Jiuzhou continent immediately. When Longao left the family, he had set up many formations on Longao Peak. However, all the formations were destroyed just now. Longao sensed a trace of destructive energy. Without a doubt, the family was in trouble. Who was the enemy? First, they attacked the sect, then the family? Looking at Brother Long's anxious and worried face, Bai Ling did not ask why. She thought for a while and said, Brother Long, the fastest way is to travel through space. However, my sister and I have not recovered to our peak, so it will be difficult for us to do so. If it was any other time, Longao would be shocked to hear Bai Ling's words. Most likely, not even Elder Tong was capable of such a feat. However, he was extremely worried about the family. Longao did not care about anything else. He stared at Bai Ling. He knew that Xiling and Bai Ling would know what to do. Sister, why don't we work together? With the power of the Dragon Seal space, I believe we can lock onto Longao Peak in the Juzhou continent. He nodded. Xiling said helplessly, Longao, you must remember how good your sister is to you. I will. It was not a good thing for Xiling and Bai Ling to forcefully use their powers. However, for the sake of Longao, Bai Ling and Xiling did not hesitate at all. As for Long Fu, he did not have any objections. With Violet Spirit, White Spirit, and Long Fu, the three artifact spirits working together, their might could be imagined. Space began to fluctuate. Longao was overjoyed. In the next moment, his body was enveloped by the spatial airflow. The three artifact spirits had joined forces to lock onto the Longao Peak of the 9 continents. In fact, with the current strength of the three artifact spirits, it was impossible for them to lock onto such a distant place. The only reason they succeeded was because of the power of the space-time wheel. 9 provinces continent. Longao Peak. The current Longao Peak was desolate. There were rocks and weeds everywhere. Occasionally, a few unpleasant crows could be heard. Longao's body had just appeared on Longao Peak when he entered the cave. However, the cave was empty. There was not a single person in sight. There were no traces of a battle. As expected, it seemed that something had happened to the family and the sect. The only difference was that when the sect was in trouble, there were obvious traces of a battle. However, when the family was in trouble, there were no traces at all. Could it be that the other party was so strong that the family did not even have the chance to fight back? Unbelievable. This time, Longao was very calm. He was not as impulsive as before. That was because he knew that being impulsive would not solve anything. In fact, it might even spoil things. Longao did not continue to stay in the cave. His body disappeared and appeared on Longao Peak. All the formations in the surroundings were destroyed. In the Tianwu continent, there were 10 sides. The Long Family, Alchemy Alliance, Martial Artists Alliance, Wanshou Sect, Heaven and Earth Sect, 5 Elements Sect, Wanzhan School, Sword Sect, Purple Thunder Sect, and Black Heaven Sect. Among them, only the Wanzhan School was proficient in formations. Longao had full confidence in the formations he had set up. Array Masters were divided into Level 1 Array Masters, Level 2 Array Masters, Level 3 Array Masters, Level 4 Array Masters, Level 5 Array Masters, Level 6 Array Masters, Level 7 Array Masters, Level 8 Array Masters, Level 9 Array Masters, Level 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 Array Masters, and Level Array Masters. Longao's level had successfully reached the Emperor level. He was only one step away from becoming a God-level Formation Master. What did a God-level Formation Master mean? In other words, once Longao broke through to the God-level Formation Master, even the Wanzhan School would do all they could to rope him in. After all, although there was only a difference of 1 level between an Emperor-level Formation Master and a God-level Formation Master, the difference between the two was too great. That was exactly the case. Longao knew very well that if the other party could break his formation in such a short time, it meant that the other party's formation skills had reached the God level. Not only that, the other party's strength was also very strong. After all, he had rushed to the Juzhou continent less than an hour. Who on earth was the other party? 10 sides. After thinking about it, Longao could almost be sure that only the 10 sides could do this. Among the 10 sides, the most likely were the Wanzhan School, the Martial Artists Alliance, and the Long Family. As for which one it was, Longao leaned towards the Martial Artists Alliance. Among all the enemies, Longao knew that the feud between him and the Martial Artists Alliance had reached the point where they were like fire and water. It was a situation where either one of them would die. It was not surprising that the Martial Artists Alliance wanted to deal with him and his family. Moreover, the Martial Artists Alliance had already announced to the world that they had issued an order to destroy the Dragon Sect. Moreover, it was Tong Zun who had personally given the order. Under such a temptation, he believed that many people would take action. In the Martial Artists Alliance, Longao clenched his fists tightly. His face was full of murderous intent. However, he kept telling himself in his heart that he must calm down, and calm down. He must not be impulsive. Otherwise, not only would he hurt himself, but also his family. Therefore, he could not act rashly. Longao began observing carefully. He hoped that he could find some clues in the formation to find the so-called enemy. If that was the case, he could shorten the time as much as possible. Otherwise, if he found the wrong person, he would waste time and the dragon sect and his family would be in great danger. He could not make any mistakes, not even the slightest. Just when Longao was observing the formation carefully, laughter came from not far away. Subsequently, Yi Wushuang appeared out of nowhere. He looked coldly at Longao before him and said while smirking, "Longao, it's been a while. How have you been?" Yi Wushuang? If it had been the old Longao, he might have retreated when he saw Yi Wushuang. However, with Longao's powerful ability now, would he still need to retreat? Without a doubt, Longao looked cold as he said coldly, "I'm not in a good mood right now. You better get lost." Chapter 1304. Get lost? Yi Wushuang laughed when he heard Longao's words. You. From the beginning to the end, Yi Wushuang had never taken Longao seriously. As for the matter of Longao causing trouble in the Martial Artists Alliance, Yi Wushuang had no idea. This was because Yi Wushuang had gone to an extremely secluded place during this period of time. If Yi Wushuang knew about the Martial Artists Alliance, would he still dare to be so arrogant? Before Longao could speak, Yi Wushuang suddenly laughed maniacally. "Longao, do you think you're invincible just because you've broken through to the Divine Tao stage?" He completely ignored the Divine Tao aura emanating from Longao's body because Yi Wushuang was completely confident. Even if it was a martial artist of the same level, not to mention one or two, even if there were 10 or 100 of them, he would not take them seriously. The reason was simple. It was because he was a god-level formation master, the top formation master in the Tianwu continent. Not to mention, he was also a heavenly god martial artist. Judging from the Divine Tao aura that Longao had just released, he was at most a deity martial artist. Would he take a mere deity martial artist seriously? What a joke. At this moment, Longao was completely in a violent state. He was like a volcano that was about to erupt. As long as the fuse was lit, it would explode at any time. "Longao, you're courting death. Yi Wushuang, you'd better get lost." Otherwise, before Longao could finish, Yi Wushuang said coldly, "Hand over the spatial artifact, 100 drops of dragon blood, and the burning sky formation art. I can consider letting you go." Despicable. Longao had seen despicable people before, but he had never seen such a despicable person. Longao could not be bothered to continue talking nonsense with Yi Wushuang. He used his finger as a sword and slashed out. The sword chi was like a meteor that shot towards Yi Wushuang. It shocked him. Yi Wushuang did not expect Longao to be so powerful when he was only at the deity stage. The formation air shield appeared instantly, and the sword chi disappeared without a trace. One could tell how powerful Yi Wushuang's formation Tao was. Longao was a little surprised as well. A god-level formation master was indeed a god-level formation master. His formation skills were nothing before Yi Wushuang. There was no comparison between the two of them. "Longao, are you convinced?" Longao didn't say anything because he didn't want to talk to such a despicable person. "Hand it over." Enough. The Longao volcano had completely erupted. However, this time, the Longao did not personally make a move. Instead, a Longao that looked exactly like the Longao rushed out. Two Longaos? Yi Wushuang was a little dumbstruck when he saw the Longao charging at him, and the Longao who was standing still. He had no idea why there were two Longaos. The reincarnation clone was also at the deity level, the same level as Longao. In other words, once Longao's level broke through, the reincarnation clone would break through as well. This was the greatest benefit of the main body and the clone. However, the reincarnation clone's strength was slightly more powerful than the Longao's. Apart from the immortal body, the reincarnation clone also had a powerful god-slaying sword. The reincarnation clone combined with the god-slaying sword was enough to kill a heavenly god-level supreme Dao martial artist. As expected, this was the first time the reincarnation clone fought with the god-slaying sword, and his opponent was a heavenly god-level martial artist. The two of them exchanged blows. If not for Yi Wushuang's powerful formation skills, he would have been killed by the reincarnation clone. The reincarnation clone became more and more courageous as he fought. Yi Wushuang became less and less confident as he fought. What the hell is this? As the battle continued to escalate, Yi Wushuang was almost certain that the Longao who was fighting with him was not the real Longao at all. The Longao opposite him was the real Longao. How did Longao do it? The strength of this Longao who was fighting with him was a little too terrifying. He did not dare to be careless. With Yi Wushuang's formation skills, he immediately took out 8 flags of different colors and inserted them around him. Next, Yi Wushuang and the reincarnation clone disappeared at the same time. Seeing this, Longao was shocked. He thought to himself, this is bad. He tried to summon the reincarnation clone, but the result was just as Longao had guessed. The formation set up by Yi Wushuang should have isolated the spatial fluctuations, causing him to be unable to summon the reincarnation clone. He was more or less at ease with the reincarnation clone. No matter what, the reincarnation clone was immortal. Not to mention Yi Wushuang. Even if Tong Zun or the Heavenly Tao personally descended, they would not be able to completely destroy the reincarnation clone. This was the power of the reincarnation clone. As for the formation set up by Yi Wushuang, it could at most trap the reincarnation clone. It was impossible to destroy the reincarnation clone. Yi Wushuang, you can't kill my clone. Show yourself. Just as Longao finished speaking, Yi Wushuang and the reincarnation clone had already appeared. The reincarnation clone successfully returned to Longao's side. Only then did Longao heave a sigh of relief. Although he was full of confidence, no one knew if the formation would be effective against the reincarnation clone. Yi Wushuang, I won't give you 100 drops of dragon blood or the burning sky formation. I'll say it again. You'd better scram. With your strength and formation skills alone, you're no longer able to kill me. If Yi Wushuang had heard Longao say that earlier, he would have scoffed. However, now, Yi Wushuang was very serious because the clone that Longao mentioned was indeed powerful. Even his formation could not kill Longao. However, Yi Wushuang was determined to get it. Not only did he want to obtain the burning sky formation, the spatial artifact, and the 100 drops of dragon blood, but he also wanted to kill Longao. No matter what, Longao was still his junior brother. Once Longao truly became powerful, what would he do when the time came to deal with him? It was precisely because of this that Yi Wushuang had already decided that he had finally found Longao's traces. No matter what, he had to kill Longao to eliminate future troubles. If one did not remove the roots, they would grow again when the spring breeze blew. Yi Wushuang knew this very well. Longao, do you think you can leave this place alive? Longao already understood what Yi Wushuang meant and sneered. If it were any other time, Longao might have said a few words. However, now, with Yi Wushuang's order, the reincarnation clone's body dashed out again. Ha ha ha, Longao, I'll show you the highest formation in the Burning Sky Formation today. The Burning Sky Formation, just as Yi Wushuang finished speaking, the surrounding environment suddenly changed. Raging flames burned. Longao could clearly sense how powerful the Burning Sky Formation that Yi Wushuang had set up was. Could it be that Yi Wushuang had already set up the Burning Sky Formation? Longao knew very well that even with Yi Wushuang's level of formation skills, it was impossible for him to instantly set up the Burning Sky Formation. It seemed like Yi Wushuang was already prepared. Chapter 1305. Burning Sky Array. Longao had seen the Burning Sky Array in the Burning Sky Array. Without a doubt, if one wanted to set up the Burning Sky Array, unless one first broke through to the God-level Array Master, even an Emperor-level Array Master would not be able to set up the Burning Sky Array. As for the power of the Burning Sky Array, there was no suspense at all. Although the Burning Sky Formation was not the strongest existence within the Burning Sky Formation technique, the Burning Sky Formation was the most destructive and terrifying formation. Longao was already enveloped by the burning sky array. However, could the burning sky array trap Longao? The burning sky array was powerful, but it could not interfere with spatial fluctuations. Longao could enter the dragon seal space as he pleased. Longao's body disappeared. As for the reincarnation clone, it also disappeared without a trace. Yi Wushuang was a little dumbfounded. Although he had already guessed that Longao could use the spatial artifact to temporarily hide his body, he still did not expect that Longao could also disappear within the burning sky array. If he had not seen it with his own eyes, he would not have believed it even if he was beaten to death. Longao, come out if you're a man and have a fair battle with me. Inside the burning sky array, Yi Wushuang roared crazily because he did not know if Longao was still in the array. If he was not, wouldn't his efforts be in vain? The most helpless thing was that Yi Wushuang knew very well that if Longao escaped this time, it meant that his array could not trap Longao at all. If that was the case, he would be doomed. Inside the dragon seal space, Longao ignored Yi Wushuang's roar. He was thinking of a way to deal with it. If it was an open battle, he would not be afraid of Yi Wushuang. So what if Yi Wushuang was a heavenly god? With the help of the reincarnation clone, Longao was completely confident that he could kill Yi Wushuang in the shortest amount of time. However, the problem now was that Yi Wushuang did not fight him alone at all. Instead, he chose to attack with a formation. Longao knew his own limits when it came to formations. Although there was only a difference of one level between an Emperor-level array master and a God-level array master, the difference between the two was like the difference between heaven and earth. Not to mention anything else, just the burning sky array alone was something he had no way of breaking. How should he deal with Yi Wushuang? At this moment, Longao was very anxious because the dragon sect and his family had all disappeared. He didn't even know who the other party was. The longer he delayed, the more danger his family would be in. Therefore, he had to get rid of Yi Wushuang as soon as possible so that he could find out where his family was. To deal with Yi Wushuang, one had to break the formation that Yi Wushuang had set up first. Longao asked Long Fu about that directly. Long Fu, tell me, what should I do now? Master, Yi Wushuang is very powerful in formations, but he has a fatal weakness. What is it? Hearing Long Fu's words, Longao was overjoyed and asked impatiently. Master, you might not know this, but according to my observations these few times, Yi Wushuang's strength and formation skills are not bad. The only thing is that Yi Wushuang's soul has been controlled by someone. Huh. If Long Fu hadn't said it himself, Longao definitely wouldn't have believed it. Yi Wushuang's soul had been controlled by someone? Was that true? Long Fu, do you know who is controlling Yi Wushuang's soul? Shaking his head, Long Fu said helplessly, I've tried to sense it, but the other party seems to be very powerful. If I was at my peak, I wouldn't have a problem. But now, I don't dare to sense it forcefully. Once I'm discovered, Master, you'll be in trouble. If even Long Fu was afraid, then Longao could totally imagine just what kind of powerful figure the other party was. Long Fu, what should I do? Master, since Yi Wushuang's soul has been controlled by someone, it's a good thing for us. As long as we disturb his soul, I believe Yi Wushuang's soul will be in chaos. At that time, Master, you can take the opportunity to kill him. So that was how it was. Brother Long, your soul slaves are the best weapons. Soul slaves? Longao smiled. Of course, Longao already knew what Bai Ling meant. Just as Bai Ling had said, soul slaves were refined from souls. If he released hundreds of soul slaves and entered Yi Wushuang's body at the same time, he believed that Yi Wushuang's soul would be in chaos. As long as he seized the opportunity, it wouldn't be impossible to kill Yi Wushuang. He did as he said. Just as Longao was about to leave the dragon seal space and use the soul slaves to deal with Yi Wushuang, Long Fu suddenly continued, Master, you must remember not to touch Yi Wushuang's soul when you kill him, and don't be entangled by his soul. Why is that? Longao was very curious. Since he was going to kill Yi Wushuang, he would definitely eliminate the root of the problem. Even if it was Yi Wushuang's soul, he would not let it go. He would choose to kill it completely. How could he destroy it completely without touching the soul? Master, there's something you don't know. The person who's controlling Yi Wushuang's god soul should be a powerful martial artist. If you kill Yi Wushuang and touch his god soul or get entangled by it, that person will lock onto your aura. By then, won't you have an extra enemy for no reason? Longao nodded. In such troubled times, Longao was not willing to provoke more trouble, especially powerful martial artists. Longao chose hundreds of soul slaves. Among them, 3 were soul slaves and the rest were all low-level soul slaves. Even so, it was more than enough. Inside the burning sky formation, Yi Wushuang roared crazily because he did not want to lose this opportunity. At this moment, Longao's figure suddenly appeared. He sneered and said, "Yi Wushuang, there's no need to shout. I'm right here. If you have the ability, come and kill me." Yi Wushuang seemed to be a little surprised when he saw Longao suddenly appear. The more Longao acted like this, the more uncertain he felt. Under normal circumstances, Longao had finally left and would not appear. But in the end, Longao's strength and formation skills were clearly inferior to his. He believed that Longao knew this as well. Since that was the case, why did Longao return? Could there be a conspiracy? Longao, waving his hand and not giving Yi Wushuang a chance to speak, Longao said, "Didn't you want to kill me? Coincidentally, I'm also preparing to clean up the sect for Master. I'll kill you within 3 moves. If you have any last words, feel free to say them." *CKU. Yi Wushuang was completely enraged. Longao's blatant words simply did not take him seriously. It would have been fine if the other party was a Supreme Divine Dao martial artist or a Divine Rank Formation Master, but the other party was only a mere deity martial artist and a low-level Formation Master, yet he was so arrogant. It was simply unbearable. The secret cave could tolerate it, but the chrysanthemum could not tolerate it. Chapter 1306. 3 moves. It was an insult to him. With a furious roar, Yi Wushuang activated the burning sky formation. The endless flames around him surged toward Longao. Longao stood still, but hundreds of soul slaves suddenly shot out from his body toward Yi Wushuang from all directions. Soul slaves were most afraid of flames. It could be said that flames and lightning were the nemesis of soul slaves. However, the soul slaves were extremely fast. Before Yi Wushuang could react, hundreds of soul slaves had already arrived around Yi Wushuang, surrounding him tightly. If it were other heavenly god martial artists, the soul slaves would not be able to enter at all. However, Yi Wushuang's situation was different. His god soul was controlled by the mysterious martial artist, giving the soul slaves a rare opportunity. Hundreds of soul slaves surged into Yi Wushuang's body and began to attack his god soul. One could imagine the power of hundreds of soul slaves attacking at the same time. The endless flames that were surging toward Longao disappeared instantly because Yi Wushuang's god soul was attacked. The burning sky formation disappeared as well. Longao, you'll regret this. Master, save me, save me. Hundreds of soul slaves attacked at the same time, not giving Yi Wushuang any chance. In less than a few minutes, Yi Wushuang's body fell. There was no aura, and he was clearly dead. Looking at the corpse on the ground, Longao finally let out a long sigh of relief. He knew very well that if Yi Wushuang was not controlled by his god soul, it would be thousands of times more difficult to kill him. It seemed like his luck was quite good. Master, please don't recall the soul slaves. Nodding, Longao knew very well what Long Fu meant. Hundreds of soul slaves had just attacked Yi Wushuang's god soul. If he recalled the soul slaves, he would definitely be targeted by the mysterious martial artist. By then, he would be in big trouble. Hundreds of soul slaves were forced out by Longao. As for the soul slaves, they would disappear automatically after leaving the dragon seal space for a long time. That was the biggest disadvantage of soul slaves. Right at that moment, Yi Wushuang's body began to burn, and his god soul turned into a ball of flames as well. Longao, you killed Yi Wushuang. I'll come for you. Looking at his burning body and god soul, Longao was completely dumbfounded. According to Long Fu, as long as he did not recall his soul slave and was not touched by Yi Wushuang's god soul, the mysterious martial artist controlling Yi Wushuang's god soul would not be able to lock onto him. But what was the result? Who are you? It was hard to imagine that not only could the other party control Yi Wushuang's soul, but the other party even knew him. Could it be that the other party had already searched Yi Wushuang's soul? That should be the case. Otherwise, it would be impossible for the other party to recognize him. Initially, he did not want to cause trouble, but the outcome was the exact opposite. Since the other party already knew who he was, there was no doubt that the mysterious martial artist who controlled Yi Wushuang's soul would definitely come looking for him. He had stirred up trouble for no reason. Who exactly are you? Yi Wushuang no longer looked human in the burning flames. Longao, you know me, and I know you. One day, we will meet again. The flames disappeared, and so did Yi Wushuang's body and god soul. The other party knew him, and he knew him too? Who was the other party? Long Fu, can you lock onto the other party's exact location? Master, with the help of Miss Xiling and Miss Bai Ling's power, we finally locked onto the mysterious martial artist who controlled Yi Wushuang's soul. He's not in the 9 provinces, but in the Tianwu continent. The Tianwu continent. Longao had already thought of that. The reason was simple. The strongest person in the 9 provinces did not even have a divine Dao martial artist. To be able to control Yi Wushuang's soul, the other party was at least a God Emperor martial artist, or even a Nirvana martial artist. After all, Yi Wushuang was not only a heavenly god martial artist, but also a powerful god-rank formation master. Long Fu, can you lock onto the specific martial artist? There's no other way. He felt a little helpless. Longao could almost be sure that the other party's strength was definitely very powerful. Who had he offended? He had offended such a powerful martial artist for no reason. The number of powerful martial artists that he knew could be counted on one hand. Could the other party be a formation master? After all, to be able to control Yi Wushuang's soul, other than having powerful strength, one also seemed to have to suppress Yi Wushuang's formation Dao. It was still the same saying. In the Tianwu continent, among the 10 forces, only the 10,000 formation sect was proficient in the formation Dao. Could the mysterious martial artist be a powerhouse from the Wanzhan school? He shrugged helplessly and did not continue to dwell on this question. Longao was very anxious about his family. As for the mysterious martial artist, that was a matter for the future. The most important thing now was to find his family as soon as possible. Not only Longao, but even Xiling, Bai Ling, and Long Fu began to look for clues, hoping to find their family as soon as possible. Tianwu continent. On the peak of a mountain, a black-clothed man sat on the ground. His eyes suddenly opened, and his face was very gloomy. If Longao was here and saw the black-clothed man, no one knew what kind of expression he would have because the black-clothed man was none other than Longao and Yi Wushuang's master, Fentian. When Longao first met Fentian, he became his disciple in a daze and received the formation Dao. In order to repay the favor of teaching him, Longao did not hesitate to fight with Yi Wushuang and almost died a few times. However, in the end, Fentian did not die at all and even controlled Yi Wushuang's soul. With a gloomy face, Fentian suddenly laughed. His laughter was so eerie and terrifying. It was like dark clouds on a rainy day. Longao, you really did not disappoint me. Not bad, not bad. Junhong. After a short while, a burly man had already shot over. He seemed to be moving very slowly, but in fact, he was very fast. In the blink of an eye, he was already in front of Fentian. Lin Junhong, the master of Wanzhan school. His strength might not be as strong as Tong Tindi and the others, but no one in Tianwu continent dared to underestimate him. Lin Junhong's formation Dao was unfathomable. He was known as the person with the strongest formation Dao talent in the past 10,000 years in Wanzhan school. No one had seen Lin Junhong's formation Dao because almost everyone who had seen it was dead. It was also because of this that Tong Tindi and the others were not willing to fight with Lin Junhong. After all, formation Dao was the most terrifying existence in a battle. It was done. Wanzhan School's strength was not good, but no one dared to provoke them because of Wanzhan School's formation Dao and formation masters. Formation masters were existences above martial artists. In the martial heaven continent, there were far too few formation masters. Especially powerful formation masters, they were even rarer. Even the 10,000 formation sect didn't have many talented formation masters. Chapter 1307. Ancestor, is there something you need from me? Lin Junhong bowed respectfully to the ancestor in front of him without any disrespect. As the master of Wanzhong School, Lin Junhong could be said to be one of the top few people in Tianwu continent. Even so, Lin Junhong was still a little scared standing in front of Fen Tian. Fen Tian was very satisfied with this descendant of his. He smiled. Junhong, I've called you here because I have something for you to do. Ancestor, please tell me. The ancestor had something for him? What was it? Lin Junhong was very curious. Ever since the ancestor went into seclusion 10,000 years ago, he rarely summoned him and others. If there was something, he would only send a message. He would not summon him personally like now. Do you know Longao? If it was before, Lin Junhong would definitely not know him. After all, the difference in status between Lin Junhong and Longao was too big. One was the master of Wanzhong School, one of the 10 great sections. The other was the master of the newly established dragon sect. The two of them were not on the same level. But now, Longao had caused havoc in the Martial Artists Alliance twice and was famous all over the world. Not to mention him, he believed that everyone already knew this madman who had just risen up. He nodded. Lin Junhong did not know why the ancestor suddenly mentioned Longao because there was no grudge between the Wanzhong School and Longao. Even if there was a misunderstanding between Longao and the Wanzhong School, it would not affect the Wanzhong School. From now on, you have to help Longao. Huh. Hearing the ancestor's words, Lin Junhong was a little dumbfounded. He did not know what was wrong with the ancestor. Why did he want to help Longao out of nowhere? If it was someone else, it would be fine to help, but Longao's situation was obviously different. The grudge between Longao and the Martial Artists Alliance was known to the world. If he helped Longao, wouldn't he be going against the Martial Artists Alliance? Was it worth it for a Longao? Ancestor, with the grudge between Longao and the Martial Artists Alliance, I'm afraid the Martial Artists Alliance won't agree if we help Longao. Since Tong Zun is here, we don't have to provoke him. Tong Zun, the super expert who founded the Martial Artists Alliance. Tong Zun, you old bastard. You don't even care about the promise you made back then. I will personally go and see this old friend of yours. The more the ancestor acted like this, the more surprised Lin Junhong was. The ancestor was willing to offend the Martial Artists Alliance for the sake of a Longao. He was even willing to go there in person. Was this true? Why would the old ancestor help Longao? Could it be that the two of them were related? Lin Junhong had full confidence in the strength of the old ancestor. In today's world, other than the marvelous mathematician and Tian Dao, the old ancestor could be said to be the strongest below the peak of martial arts. He was a super existence on the same level as Tong Zun. Ancestor. He waved his hand. Even if Lin Junhong didn't say it, Fen Tian knew what he wanted to say. He smiled and said, "Do as I say. I know what to do." How could Lin Junhong not agree now that things had come to this point? Lin Junhong knew very well that although he was the master of Wanzhong School, the real number one person in Wanzhong School was not him. It was the old ancestor in front of him, the legendary figure of Wanzhong School, Fen Tian. Ancestor, do you have any other orders? Find out who kidnapped Longao's family. Yes, I'll do it right away. Even if he was unwilling in his heart, Lin Junhong wouldn't say anything since the old ancestor had already given the order. He turned around and left. In a short while, he had disappeared without a trace. Longao, I hope you won't let me down. Whether I can find the origin energy and break through the peak of martial arts will all depend on you. The entire mountain peak was very secluded. As the forbidden area of Wanzhong School, no one except Lin Junhong could come here. 9 provinces continent. Longao Peak. After searching for an entire day and night, Longao and the others still couldn't find any clues because the person who destroyed the array was very powerful. He was even a divine array master. There seemed to be only one place that could trigger a divine array master, and that was the Wanzhong School. However, Longao didn't believe that this was done by Wanjian school. The reason was simple. He didn't have any grudges with Wanjian school. Even if there were conflicts with the branch, he believed that Wanjian school wouldn't touch his family because of this. Moreover, with the Martial Artists Alliance as an example, unless Wanjian school wanted to find trouble for themselves. Since it wasn't Wanjian school, the biggest possibility was that it was the Long family and the Martial Artists Alliance. Was it the Long family or the Martial Artists Alliance? In the end, Longao still targeted the Martial Artists Alliance because the Martial Artists Alliance was the most likely culprit in the entire Tianwu continent. Previously, when he gave the order to destroy them, Longao was extremely angry with the Martial Artists Alliance. Brother Long, you must calm down. Don't be impulsive. The foundation and strength of the Martial Artists Alliance isn't something that you can shake by yourself. Why don't you join forces with the other 10 forces to deal with the Martial Artists Alliance together? That way, we'll have a better chance. His family was in danger. If he joined forces with the other 10 forces, who knew how long it would take? Moreover, Longao knew very well that with his status, even if he wanted to, the other 10 forces might not agree. Because as long as they weren't stupid, he believed that no one would offend the Martial Artists Alliance for him. Putting himself in their shoes, if he was in their shoes and they sent someone to ask him to join forces with them to deal with the 10 forces, would he agree? Regardless of whether the others agreed or not, he definitely wouldn't agree. There was no doubt about it. He was a little serious. As Bai Ling said, the Martial Artists Alliance's strength and foundation were too strong. He couldn't shake the entire Martial Artists Alliance with his strength alone. Especially with Tong Zun's arrival, the Martial Artists Alliance wouldn't even care about the other 10 forces, let alone him. He had seen Tong Zun's strength with his own eyes. He was much stronger than Tong Tiandi. The two of them weren't on the same level. What should he do? Seeing that Longao didn't say anything, Bai Ling became more and more worried. Longao, are you looking for me? Hearing the voice in front of him, Longao's heart skipped a beat. He immediately cut off the connection with Bai Ling and sent a message to Long Fu. No matter what happened, he couldn't let Bai Ling and Xiling come out. Looking at the 9 people who suddenly appeared in front of him, Longao's face was very ugly. Enemies often cross paths. He originally wanted to find the Martial Artists Alliance, but he didn't expect the Martial Artists Alliance to come to him first. It seemed that the Martial Artists Alliance had locked onto him and would definitely come back to Longao's mountain. Because of this, Longao was even more certain that the disappearance of his family had something to do with the Martial Artists Alliance. P.S. Let's start with 5 chapters. Today will be a big explosion. There will be more later. Chapter 1308. Tong Zun. Where's my family? Things had already reached this point. Longao had already disregarded life and death. Longao, you don't even know if you're dead or alive. Why do you care about your family? The more Tong Zun said, the more certain Longao was that the Martial Artists Alliance was behind the disappearance of his family. Longao was filled with anger at the thought of this. Endure. Calm down. He couldn't be impulsive at a time like this. Otherwise, he would only bring harm to his family. His parents, grandpa, Yin, brother, siblings, friends, disciples of his family, disciples of the dragon sect, all of them would die for him. Longao didn't want anyone to die. He didn't want anything to happen to his family. Tong Zun, the grudge between me and the Martial Artists Alliance is between you and me. It has nothing to do with my family. Before Tong Zun could speak, Longao continued, don't bring harm to my family. Ha ha ha, ha ha ha. Hearing Longao's words, Tong Tiandi and the others laughed crazily. Especially Shangguaniye, who laughed the craziest. Shangguaniye was very clear that even if Longao had 3 heads and 6 arms, he believed that Longao would definitely die this time. It could be considered as getting rid of any future trouble for him. Longao, you're right. Tong Zun smiled and continued, don't bring harm to my family. When you made a scene in the Martial Artists Alliance and killed our deputy leader and disciple, I want to ask you why you didn't say the same thing back then. Hearing this, Longao wanted to go up and kill all 9 of them. Endure. Endure. Calm down. Calm down. Tong Zun, what do you want? Give me the space artifact, break your arms, and destroy your cultivation. Then I'll consider sparing your life. Don't even think about it. Longao did not hesitate in the slightest and directly refused. Longao knew what kind of people Tong Zun and the others were. Even if he broke his arms and destroyed his cultivation, he believed that the martial artists' alliance would not let him go. Longao would never do such a stupid thing. If he agreed, then not only would he not be able to save his family, he would also die. You don't agree? Tong Zun, cut the crap. I can't agree to this. Good, good, good. Tong Zun took 3 steps back and waved his hand. His meaning was clear. Ancestor, let me do it. Tong Zun didn't say anything, but it was clear that he agreed. Shangguaniye was overjoyed. It would be great if she could kill Longao with her own hands. Shangguaniye took 10 steps forward and was about to say something. Kill. She was shocked. Without any hesitation, Shangguaniye took a big stride forward and dashed out. Even before he arrived, his horrifying aura of heaven and earth had already pressed down. Chi of heaven and earth? Longao snorted and released the chi of heaven and earth as well. The 2 chi of heaven and earth collided with each other and sparks flew. Longao, I'm going to tear you into pieces today. Longao didn't say anything. He knew that he was no match for Shangguaniye with his own strength. If he chose to fight head-on, he would die. Longao knew his own strength very well. With the help of space teleportation, Longao's body kept changing. Even Shangguaniye couldn't catch up with Longao. Not far away, Tong Zun was surprised to see Longao's body disappear and reappear. He didn't know how Longao did it. Could it be that Longao's space teleportation device was so powerful? Heaven Emperor. Ancestor, what are your orders? All of you guard all positions for me. This time, you must not let Longao escape. Yes, of course, Tong Tindi would not let Longao go. No matter how much he appreciated Longao before, now that things had come to this point, he had to kill Longao. As the leader of the Martial Artists Alliance, he had to consider the interests of the alliance before doing anything. Therefore, Longao had to die. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to answer to the alliance. Tong Tindi and the others sealed off all directions. It was like an inescapable net. It wouldn't be easy for Longao to escape. Tong Zun was looking forward to it. He couldn't wait to kill Longao and get the space teleportation device. I'll leave this place to you. I'll be back soon. The ancestor was leaving? Tong Tindi and the others were dumbfounded when they saw the ancestor's figure disappear. No one could guarantee that they could kill Longao under such circumstances. If it was someone else, even one Nirvana Realm martial artist could easily kill him, let alone so many Nirvana Realm martial artists. Longao Peak. In the 9 heavens, at the peak of the clouds, Tong Zun's face turned ugly when he saw the old man in front of him. He smiled and said, Fentian, we haven't seen each other for 10,000 years. How's it going? Very well. Fentian smiled and continued, Tong Zun, there's something I'd like to ask for your help with. I'm fine with anything except for Longao's matter. Forgive me for not being able to help. Tong Zun wasn't a fool. He knew that Fentian's sudden arrival was definitely because of Longao. Otherwise, Fentian wouldn't have come here out of nowhere. It was also because of this that Tong Zun was surprised. Fentian's identity was obvious. He wouldn't believe that Fentian would travel thousands of miles to the 9 provinces continent just for Longao if he didn't see it with his own eyes. Ha ha ha, Tong Zun, you and I are old friends. There's no need for this. Longao has done me a favor, so I hope that you can let Longao go for my sake. I owe you a favor. What do you think? Fentian's favor, no matter who it was, would be more than willing to give it to him. As the old ancestor of Wanzhan School, Fentian's strength and identity were obvious. If it was any other matter, Tong Zun would be more than willing to do this favor. However, Longao was the only exception. It wasn't easy to trap Longao this time. Tong Zun was 100% unwilling to give up just like that. Fentian, forgive me for being powerless. Longao is mine today. No matter who comes, don't even think about taking him away. Fentian's face started to turn ugly. With his identity, he had already said it out loud, but Tongzun didn't give him any face. How could he save his face? Fentian, it's not worth it for Wanjan School to fall out with the Martial Artists Alliance just for Longao. Tongzun, since you don't give me any face, then don't blame me for not giving you any face. At most, we'll go to war. I, Fentian, have never been afraid of anyone. However, let me give you a piece of advice. The Martial Artists Alliance alone might not be a match for my Wanjan School. Fentian was definitely not trying to scare him. After all, Wanjan School could fight against 10,000 people alone. A powerful array master was an existence that wouldn't die in 100 battles. Chapter 1309. It would be a lie if he said that he was not afraid of Wanjan School. Fentian's strength was needless to say, but how many people in the Martial Artists Alliance could go against him if he set up a super formation? However, Tongzun was not willing to give up just like that. Tongzun, I have an idea, but I'm not sure if you're willing to accept it. Tell me. Tongzun was not willing to provoke Fentian unless he had no other choice, let alone fall out with him. Spiritual sense voice transmission. Tongzun's expression changed again after a minute. Fentian, are you telling the truth? Absolutely, but this must be kept a secret. As long as you're willing to help me, I can swear that we'll reach the pinnacle of martial Dao together. The pinnacle of martial Dao was the realm that he wanted to reach even in his dreams. He cursed in his heart. Why did Fentian want to take advantage of him? Tongzun did not know why, but he felt that something was wrong. However, if Fentian could swear a blood oath, would he not agree to it? Tongzun knew very well that Fentian would do anything in order to break through to the peak stage of the martial Dao. Not to mention falling out with the Martial Arts Alliance, it was not impossible for him to fight to the death. I can promise you, but Longao might not. What do you mean? I believe that you already know about the grudge between us and Longao. Even if I'm willing to let him go, I believe that he won't let me go. When the time comes, Longao will not let go of the Martial Artists Alliance. Tongzun, let me ask you something. Did you do something to Longao's family? No. Fentian chose to believe him because Tongzun did not need to lie to him. If it was not the Martial Artists Alliance, then who was going against Longao? Getting someone else to do the dirty work. Both Tongzun and Fentian thought of a possibility at the same time. Someone wanted to frame the Martial Artists Alliance and instigate a battle between Longao and the Martial Artists Alliance. Who could it be? Longao Peak. Longao was forced to retreat by Shangguan Yi. He could be killed at any time. Due to the interference of spatial fluctuations, it was impossible to enter the Dragon Seal space, let alone use spatial teleportation. What should he do? Although spatial teleportation was powerful, it had a fatal weakness. Whenever someone interfered with the spatial fluctuations, spatial teleportation would lose its effectiveness. One leaf, that's enough. At this critical moment, Tongzun's voice suddenly sounded. Before Shangguan Yi could figure out what was going on, her body was forcefully pulled back. Forefather. He waved his hand. Longao, you've lost this battle, but you can leave. Huh. Upon hearing the forefather's words, everyone, including Shangguan Yi, was dumbfounded. Longao was already a dead man. If that was the case, why would the forefather let Longao go for no reason? However, Longao was too unpredictable. If he was given enough time and opportunity to grow, Longao would become a huge threat to the Martial Artists Alliance. It was impossible for the forefather to not know about this. Tongzun, my family. Although he was a little curious as to why Tongzun would let him go, Longao would definitely not leave. His family's fate was unknown, and no one knew what the Martial Artists Alliance was up to. Longao, even if I capture your family, I'll directly destroy them. I won't use you as a hostage, because you're not worthy. Before Longao could finish his words, Tongzun continued, I'll settle the score with you in the future, but today, I won't kill you. However, you have to remember one thing. Don't be too arrogant. The Martial Artists Alliance is not a place where you can come and go as you please. You won't be so lucky next time. Let's go. As soon as he finished speaking, Tong Zun's figure disappeared without a trace. What happened to the forefather? Tong Tiandi felt a little helpless. However, he knew that the forefather's departure must have something to do with Longao. Since the forefather did not want to say more, they did not ask. Tong Tiandi and the others were smart. They knew what to ask, what not to ask, and when to ask. They had to know clearly, otherwise, their lives would be in danger. Let's go. Longao, if it wasn't for the forefather, you would already be dead. However, don't think that you'll be fine. One day, I'll make sure that you die without a burial place. Shangguaniye was very depressed. Who knew what was going on with the forefather? It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and he missed it just like that. Even he would not believe that he was not unhappy. However, no matter if it was Shangguaniye or Tong Tiandi, they would definitely not dare to go against the forefather's wishes. Carrying 1,000 unwillingness and unhappiness in their hearts, they all left in a short while. Longao was the only one left on Longao's peak. If it wasn't the Martial Artists Alliance, then who could it be? Longao did not doubt Tong Zun's words at all. He knew that with Tong Zun's status, he would definitely not lie about this kind of thing. Therefore, Longao was very curious about who wanted to deal with him. Longao thought about it for a long time, but he could not figure out who wanted to deal with him and his family. In the Tianwu continent, to be able to deal with his entire family in such a short period of time without leaving any traces, it was clear that the other party was very powerful. Other than this, it did not make sense for Tong Zun to let him go when he could not hold on any longer. Although Longao had been fighting with Shangguaniye, he was very observant and alert. Of course, he knew that Tong Zun had left clearly. Could it be that someone was helping him? Other than this, Longao could not figure out why Tong Zun would choose to let him go. After all, this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. As long as he was careful in the future, it would be very difficult for the Martial Artists Alliance to besiege him. Longao felt that his mind was in a mess. One thing after another, it was as if he had fallen into a trap. Strictly speaking, he had entered a chess game. He was just a chess piece among many chess pieces. As for how he should move, it was not up to him to decide. Although this idea was absurd, Longao had this kind of intuition in his heart. Who was behind all this? Could it be the divine mathematician? In the Tianwu continent, there were 2 warriors who had reached the peak of martial arts. It was almost impossible for the Heavenly Tao to do this. If the Heavenly Tao knew about this, it would definitely not let him go. Then, other than the Heavenly Tao, it could only be the marvelous mathematician. Was it possible for the marvelous mathematician? It was a mess. It was really a mess. Longao sat on the ground and took deep breaths. Author's note: it's almost 3 o'clock. Xiaoju will go to bed first. Good night, everyone. If you have a vote, please vote for Longao. Chapter 13:10. After staying at Longao Peak for 3 days, Longao stood up and left. His mind was in a mess. His intuition told him that the disappearance of his family for no reason was definitely not that simple. His family's safety. Thinking of his family, Longao was a bit worried. He did not continue to stay in the 9 provinces continent. That was because Longao knew that the people who had captured his family were definitely from the Martial Sky continent. As soon as he stepped into the Martial Sky continent, he was a bit surprised. Longao did not know why Moronguena was looking for him at this time. Longao had a good impression of Moronguena. Adding on the Morong Yenner, Longao did not decline. He immediately changed directions and headed to the Sword Sect. Sword Sect. Within the main hall, the Sword Sect Master, the one known as the Emperor Moronguena, and the Sword Sect's Grand Elder, Yixin, looked at Longao with joy. They asked in unison, "Longao, are you all right?" Shaking his head, Longao smiled and replied, "I'm fine. Thank you for your concern." Why were the 2 of them so concerned about him? Ever since he had entered the Martial Sky continent, Longao had learned a principle. No matter where he went, he could not easily trust others. Otherwise, he would die a miserable death. "As long as you're fine. Master, may I know why you've called me here?" Longao was very worried about his family's safety. So if there was nothing too important, he would leave the sword sect. As if he knew that Longao was very worried, Morongoina nodded and said, Longao, I've called you here mainly because of your family. Longao, who had just sat down, immediately stood up when he heard Morongoina mention his family. He was impatient. Master, do you know the whereabouts of my family? Nodding. Morongoina had a hesitant expression, as if he had some misgivings. Longao was very gloomy. Master, if you know the whereabouts of my family, please tell me. Count it as me, Longao, owing you a favor. Grand Elder, what do you think? Morongoina was very good at pretending. This time, he had called Longao for this matter. But at this moment, Morongoina was clearly a good person. To let Longao know that he was taking a risk. Shameless. He knew that Morong Fengyan was shameless, but Longao was still grateful. Their cooperation was flawless. Morongoina and Yi Xian's intentions were very clear. They wanted to express their goodwill. After all, Longao was no longer the same as before. He had caused trouble at the Martial Artists Alliance and killed 2 deputy leaders. More importantly, Longao could escape from under Tong Zun's nose. What did this mean? There were only 4 words to describe Longao's current state. He had a bright future. If it were the Longao, Morongoina, and Yi Xian of the past, would they still be like this? It was really an unknown. Under such circumstances, Longao could no longer care about anything else. He had to save his family first. Thank you. Longao, you entered a Long family and fell out with the Long family. Long family? Could this be the doing of the Long family? Longao was not a fool. Of course, he could understand the meaning behind Morongoina's words. All 10 sides had the power to do this. Longao also thought about the Long family, but he was unwilling to believe it in the end, because he knew very well that once the Long family did this, there would be no room for negotiation. From then on, he and the Long family would be in a situation where either one of them died or the other died. Long family would not do this unless they had no other choice. Longao, I believe you've already guessed that the family and the dragon sect are against you this time. It's the Long family. As if afraid that Longao would not believe it, before Longao asked, Morongoina had already said again, after you left the dragon sect and went to the Long family had already mobilized a mysterious force. Although I don't know who leaked the location of the dragon sect and your family, I can say for sure that there must be a traitor in your family. Longao nodded. How could Longao not understand Morongoina's meaning? A traitor. From start to finish, Longao had never dared to imagine that a traitor would appear in his family or sect. Because of that, he had been very careful in selecting disciples. In the end, he had been unable to avoid such a situation. Longao did not blame the traitor. Instead, he blamed himself. The power of a sect or a family might be enough to dominate the 9 provinces continent, but to the Martial Heaven continent, it was just a drop in the ocean. Even if it was placed in the ocean, it probably wouldn't even cause the slightest ripple. Long family was a colossus to his own family. Longao was very clear that if the core seal hadn't disappeared, the Long family wouldn't have dared to do such a thing. As for why the core seal had disappeared, it was still a mystery. Long family. Long Dition probably didn't know that he had already made an agreement with the dragon race. No matter how much he fought with the Long family, the dragon race could not interfere. Without the dragon race's help, the Long family didn't seem so scary. Family was Longao's bottom line. No matter who it was, as long as they touched that bottom line, Longao would not easily let them off. Longao, although the Long family has captured your family, according to my guess, Long Dition won't make a move immediately. At the very least, he will wait for you to go personally. Therefore, you need to plan carefully. Otherwise, if you rashly go to the Long family, not only will you not be able to save your family, you might even lose your life. Master, I know what you mean. I won't be impulsive. Since the Long family wants to play with me, then I'll accompany you. Thank you, Master. I will remember this kindness. This was the effect that Morongoina wanted. Under his pressure, the current Longao's value was much higher. There was no need to talk about the potential of a person who could cause trouble in the Martial Artists Alliance and ignore Tongzun. Even if Longao couldn't join the sword sect, at the very least, he could establish a good relationship with him. Who knows, he might be useful in the future. One had to admit that Morong Guena was indeed a person who planned far ahead. He was much better than Tong Tiendi, Long Ditian, and the others. Longao, since you already know, then stay in the sword sect for a period of time. I'll discuss with you how to save your family. Before Longao could say anything, Yixin said, Longao, it's almost impossible for you to shake the entire Long family with your strength alone. Therefore, we need to plan carefully. Master has already agreed to help you with all his strength, even if he has to go to war with the Long family. Longao was very surprised. He couldn't understand why Morong Guena would suddenly treat him so well. P.S. I was already asleep, but Xiaoju was afraid that I wouldn't be able to write tomorrow morning. So I got up and continued to write the next chapter. The 8th chapter has been delivered. Chapter 1311. If it were any other time, Longao would definitely refuse. Because Longao had always believed that there was no such thing as a free lunch in the world, and there was no such thing as a pie falling from the sky. But now, as Yixin had just said, with his strength, it was impossible for him to shake the entire Long family. If he attacked the Long family single-handedly, not only would he not be able to save his family, he might even lose his life. There was no benefit. Longao left the main hall. Master, I hope we're right this time. He nodded. Morong Guena understood what the Great Elder meant. This time, for Longao, they had completely offended the Martial Artists Alliance and the Long family. If it were in the past, it would have been impossible. Bet. The two of them were betting on Longao's unlimited potential. Master, how should we help Longao? Let me think about it. After leaving the main hall, Longao kept thinking about his family and the Long family. He had suspected that there would be a tripod of 10 forces. In the end, he locked onto the Martial Artists Alliance. However, he did not expect that the real enemy would be the Long family. Without strength, this was how it was. He knew that his family was in trouble, but he could not help them. At this moment, Longao was blaming himself. Hey, isn't this the great hero Longao? Why are you in our sword sect? The law-enforcing elder Lu Changsheng had always been at odds with Longao. He knew clearly that Longao had made trouble for the Martial Artists Alliance twice. From the beginning to the end, Lu Changsheng did not believe that Longao had such strong strength until the Martial Artists Alliance announced it to the world. It turned out that the reason why Longao was so strong was that he had used some kind of secret skill. In the end, Longao was still trash. From Lu Changsheng's point of view, when he saw Longao at the sword sect, if he was not mistaken, Longao was probably afraid that the Martial Artists Alliance would cause trouble for him, so he sought protection from the sword sect. Lu Changsheng had no idea that Longao had entered the sword sect because he had been invited by the master, Emperor Oken, Morong Guena. If he knew, would Lu Changsheng still dare to do this? He was a snob. Scram. Longao was so frustrated that he couldn't even be bothered to say a word to Lu Changsheng. If it were in the past, Longao might have been afraid of Lu Changsheng. But now, Lu Changsheng wouldn't be able to last more than 10 moves in front of him. Lu Changsheng was an enlightened martial artist. With Longao's strength, it was impossible for him to defeat him. The gap between mortal gods and enlightened martial artists was huge. Among the 5 realms of the divine path, enlightened martial artists were already at the peak of the divine path. Because of this, although Lu Changsheng was a little surprised, he was still full of confidence. He was just a mortal god. You dare to tell me to scram? Lu Changsheng was instantly enraged because he never thought that Longao would dare to be so presumptuous in his territory. After all, Longao was a prisoner. How could a prisoner be so insolent? Lu Changsheng, before I explode, you'd better get the hell away from me. Otherwise, you're courting death. Without giving Longao any chance to finish, Lu Changsheng's body had already darted out. This time, Lu Changsheng clearly had murderous intent. As the sword sect's law enforcement elder, Lu Changsheng was usually high and mighty. When had he ever been insulted like this? In the distance, "Master, should we go out and stop him?" Waving his hand, Murong Guena watched the battle in front of him with great interest. Lu Changsheng has been a little spoiled these years. It's not a bad thing to let Longao rub off on his spirit. Longao could defeat Lu Changsheng? Yi Xian was a little skeptical, but when he thought of Longao's previous crazy behavior, he couldn't help but choose to believe. "Master, what if Longao accidentally kills Changsheng? What should we do?" Lu Changsheng was after all a heavenly god expert and the law enforcement elder of the sword sect. If he was killed by Longao, it wouldn't be a good thing for the sword sect. Murong Guena smiled. "Don't worry. Although Longao is a little reckless, he's not a fool. Now that the Long family has been captured by the Long family, Longao wants to borrow the power of the sect to deal with the Long family. At this time, Longao will definitely not act rashly." Hearing the master's words, Yi Xian also let out a long sigh of relief. Longao looked coldly at Lu Changsheng, without the slightest fear. When Lu Changsheng arrived in front of him, Longao, who had been motionless all this time, suddenly disappeared. He was completely shocked. This again. Practically everyone on the Martial Heaven continent knew that Longao possessed a spatial divine item that could instantly disappear. There were also many people who believed that the reason Longao was so arrogant and crazy was because of this spatial divine item. "Longao, if you have the ability, fight me fair and square." You dashed before Lu Changsheng could finish speaking. A ray of sword chi shot toward him from behind. Lu Changsheng hadn't expected that Longao would dare to counterattack in such a situation. In his carelessness, Lu Changsheng dodged. But because of that, he was forced to crawl away. His expression was extremely gloomy. As a grand heavenly god, he had been forced into such a miserable state by Longao. Some of the spectating disciples of the sword sect began to laugh. "Imph! I'll let you experience my roaming dragon sword." Practically everyone in the sword sect cultivated the sword Dao. Lu Changsheng was no exception. With the roaming dragon sword in hand, Lu Changsheng's entire aura changed. Lu Changsheng's strongest attack was the roaming dragon sword art. His sword chi was like a divine dragon that swam through space. Longao was also a bit surprised. He was truly worthy of being a law enforcement elder of the sword sect. Although his strength was only average amongst heavenly gods, once he wielded the roaming dragon sword, his power instantly increased by a third. Longao didn't use the god-punishing sword. He had already decided to follow the mysterious youth's method. Using his finger as a sword, he circulated the god-punishing sword art. God-punishing sword chi shot out of his finger. Sword chi collided with each other. The fake mountains, trees, and even pillars were covered in sword chi. In just a few seconds, the surroundings were reduced to ruins. And that was with the two of them controlling their sword chi as much as possible. Otherwise, their power would have been enough to destroy everything within 100 meters. On the path of the sword Dao, Longao's attainments were already very high. If it weren't for the huge gap between their realms, Lu Changsheng would have already been killed at this moment. Although he couldn't kill Lu Changsheng, Longao didn't intend to let Lu Changsheng go. If he didn't teach him a lesson, he didn't know how many eyes Ma Wangye would open. Just as Murong Guena had said, Longao definitely wouldn't kill Lu Changsheng in this situation. However, he would definitely teach him a lesson. Go. Longao directly summoned his reincarnation doppelganger. However, the reincarnation doppelganger was too fast. After it passed by like a shadow, Lu Changsheng was already sent flying. Like a kite with a broken string, he fell heavily to the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. Lu Changsheng's face was filled with horror. P.S. Copy of Chapter 9. Chapter 13:12. I've lost? Lu Changsheng couldn't care less about the throbbing pain in his body. Even now, he still couldn't accept the truth. As the dignified law enforcement elder of the sword sect and a divine realm martial artist, he was defeated by a mere Longao. Is this true? Not only that, Lu Changsheng didn't see the move Longao used from beginning to end. How did Longao do it? In the distance. Master, Longao's move just now? Nodding, Muronguena was also a little surprised. He smiled and said, Longao is not simple. After saying this, Muronguena didn't continue to watch the battle. He turned and left. Yixian also didn't stay and disappeared with Muronguena. Lu Changsheng, for the sake of the master, I'll spare your life today. He turned and prepared to leave. But at this time, Longao's voice sounded again. If you dare to provoke me again, I'll kill you. Looking at the gradually disappearing figure, Lu Changsheng's face was as gloomy as it could be and as ugly as it could be. Clenching his fists tightly, Lu Changsheng couldn't take this lying down. Longao, just you wait. I'll let you know what it means to live a life worse than death. Lu Changsheng got up from the ground with difficulty and looked around coldly. Then, he limped away. Longao didn't leave the sword sect. Instead, he stayed. It was still the same sentence. With his strength alone, it was impossible to shake the entire Long family. It would be best if he could borrow the strength of the sword sect. Longao first went to find Morong Yenner. No matter what, the two of them were friends. Long family. In the main hall, the sound of footsteps rang out, and not long after, Long Heng hurriedly entered the hall. After bowing, Longao said impatiently, Patriarch, I just received news that Longao has entered the sword sect. If I'm not mistaken, Muronguena must have told Longao the news. Long Ditian was not surprised at all, and his face remained calm. Since we're doing this, Longao will definitely find out. Sword sect? What a sword sect? The only thing that Long Ditian did not expect was that the sword sect would interfere. In the beginning, Long Ditian was full of confidence. For the sake of a Longao, he believed that no one would choose to go against the Long family unless they were tired of living. But what was the result? For the sword sect to interfere in this matter, it would be a lie to say that they weren't angry. Master, what should we do now? Don't be impatient. The sword sect will only interfere. I don't believe that they will help Longao go against the Long family. Long Ditian was still very confident in this point. The sword sect and the Long family's strength were about the same, and the sword sect definitely knew this. If they were to force a war, it would not benefit either the Long family or the sword sect. For a Longao, was it worth it? No matter who it was, no one would dare to do this. In Long Ditian's opinion, the sword sect's interference was at most a leak. Long Heng had already thought of this point, but he didn't know why, but he felt that something was wrong, as if things weren't as simple as they seemed. From the beginning to the end, Long Heng didn't agree to do this. If they succeeded in killing Longao, then dealing with the Long family behind him would be a simple matter. But they had to deal with the family behind Longao first. If they couldn't kill Longao, and Longao went against the Long family like a madman, how would they deal with that? However, since Long Ditian insisted on doing this, as the great elder of the family, he had no other choice. Long Heng was very clear on one thing. Since things had already reached this stage, then no matter what, they had to kill Longao and eliminate all future troubles. Master, the Dragon Clan this time. Before Long Heng could finish speaking, Long Ditian's face had already darkened, and his body emitted a strong killing intent. He snorted heavily. The Nine Heavens Divine Dragon said that he had an agreement with Long Ao that he wouldn't interfere in our grudges. Trash, all trash. Long Heng was at a loss. In his eyes, Long Ditian had always been very gentle, but recently, Long Ditian had been very angry, as if he had changed into a different person, especially when it came to the Dragon Clan. Master, what should we do now? It's fine. Even if the Dragon Clan doesn't help us, there's still Long Ao's family. I don't believe that Long Ao won't obediently submit. He lowered his head and pondered. Long Ditian didn't speak, and Long Heng didn't continue speaking. Time passed bit by bit. In the blink of an eye, the day had passed, and dusk was approaching. Great Elder, spread the news. If Long Ao wants to save his family, he has to come alone, and he can't find any helpers. Otherwise, I will kill one person every other day. Understood, Patriarch. Wait. Long Ditian thought for a moment, then continued, Tell Longao that I will give him at most 10 days. After 10 days, if I don't see him, I will also kill one person every other day." Hearing Long Tion's plan, Long Heng laughed. If that was the case, then as long as Longao cared about his family, he would definitely come. Unless Longao had already cut off his emotions and desires and didn't care about his family's life or death. Could Longao do that? After Long Heng left, only Long Tion was left in the hall. Tion, if necessary, you can kill Longao's family. Anyway, you just have to kill Longao. Tong Zun's figure suddenly appeared. This matter was orchestrated by Tong Zun. Otherwise, with just Long Tion and the other's strength, it was impossible to do it without anyone noticing. Moreover, it was so fast. Tong Zun had already promised Fan Tian that he wouldn't deal with Longao for the time being. However, from the beginning to the end, Tong Zun was perfunctory because he didn't know if the origin energy that Fan Tian mentioned was real or fake. What if it was fake? Although Fan Tian had made a blood oath, Fan Tian could delay for tens of thousands of years. In the end, he could only wait. Could it be that he had to wait forever? If that was really the case, wouldn't his efforts be in vain? It was because of this that Tong Zun didn't choose to believe Fan Tian. However, he didn't fall out with Fan Tian either. After all, Wanzhan School's strength was there for all to see. He didn't have full confidence that once Wanzhan School and the Martial Artists Alliance started a war, he wouldn't be able to win. It was better to be safe than sorry. If the Martial Artists Alliance lost, how would he explain it to the Martial Artists Alliance? Moreover, he was the one who established the Martial Artists Alliance, so he had a lot of feelings for it. Unless it was absolutely necessary, Tong Zun wouldn't let the Martial Artists Alliance suffer any losses. Chapter 1313. Senior, I'm afraid that Longao will act like a madman and attack the Long family again. Long Ditian was still very angry. Tong Zun was still alive, and the Martial Artists Alliance's status had risen. Even the Long family wouldn't dare to go against the Martial Artists Alliance. Tong Zun was a super expert from the same era as the old ancestor. Long Ditian also had his own plans. With Tong Zun's help, it would be very easy to deal with Longao. At the very least, without Tong Zun's help, they wouldn't be able to take away Longao's family without anyone knowing. Using each other. As long as we have hostages, Longao wouldn't dare to do anything. Tong Zun was very confident about this. Senior, I'm worried that we won't be able to kill Longao with just our strength. Long Ditian was still worried. After all, there was a precedent. If Longao really went crazy and attacked the Long family, even if they could kill Longao in the end, the family wouldn't be able to bear such a loss. 2 Nirvana Realm martial artists. Just the thought of it was terrifying. Ditian, you don't have to worry about this. As long as you can lure Longao into the Long family, I don't believe that Longao can leave alive if we work together. The Long family had a total of 11 Nirvana Realm martial artists. Including Tong Zun, the Martial Artists Alliance had 9 Nirvana Realm martial artists. With the 2 added together, there were a total of 20 Nirvana Realm martial artists. What kind of concept was this? If Longao could successfully escape from the joint attack of 20 Nirvana Realm martial artists, then no matter if it was the Long family or the Martial Artists Alliance, they could all go to hell. 20 Nirvana Realm martial artists, including the old ancestor of the Martial Artists Alliance, Tong Zun, was terrifying. This was what Long Ditian wanted. He didn't want to be used. If Longao went crazy and attacked the Long family, it would be the Long family that would suffer, not the Martial Artists Alliance. In this way, it would be safer to deal with Longao. Moreover, he could drag the Martial Artists Alliance down with him. Senior, within 10 days, Longao will definitely come. I'm worried that the Heaven and Earth sect, 5 Elements sect, and Sword sect will help him. The Heaven and Earth sect, 5 Elements sect, and Sword sect were one of the top sections. If the 3 sects were to help Longao, things would become a lot more troublesome. Tong Zun thought for a moment and said, I'll take care of those 3. After he finished speaking, his Zun disappeared. As soon as Tong Zun left, Longbo appeared. Longbow cursed at the old fox and seemed to be in a bad mood. He said, "Father, Tong Zun is obviously trying to kill Longao with a borrowed knife. Actually, we don't have to interfere. When the Martial Artists Alliance and Longao are in a life-and-death battle, we can continue to interfere and reap the benefits." How could Long Ditian not know what his son was thinking? If it was possible, he would want to do it. But was it possible? Tong Zun came to us this time because our old ancestor is dead. Otherwise, Tong Zun wouldn't dare to do this. Thinking of this, Long Ditian sighed deeply. "Father, what should we do if Tong Zun plays tricks with us?" He wants to play tricks with me," Tong Zun said confidently. Long family spread the news that if Long Ao didn't reach the Long family in 10 days, they would kill all of Long Ao's family members. They would kill one every other day. Long Ao, who was in the sword sect, didn't act rashly when he heard the news from the Long family. Instead, he calmed down. This was because Long Ao didn't expect the Long family to do this. Long family had already told everyone that they were the ones who did it. There would definitely be people criticizing them. After all, it wasn't his family members who were implicated. Calm down. He had to calm down. Long Ao knew that he had to be calm at this time. Otherwise, he would fall into the Long family's trap. Not only would he not be able to save his family, he might even lose his life. 10 days. He sneered. Long family did this to trick him into joining the Long family. As soon as the Long family spread the news, Murong Guena summoned Long Ao. Only Murong Guena and Yi Xian were in the main hall. "Long Ao, I believe you have received the news. However, I have to tell you that the sword sect and other forces will not help you." Hearing Murong Guena's words, Long Ao was curious. A few days ago, Murong Guena had promised him that no matter what happened, the sword sect would help him. However, Long Ao wasn't angry because he knew that the sword sect wouldn't do this for no reason. Could there be something fishy? As expected. "Long Ao, it's not that we don't want to help you. However, yesterday, Tong Zun of the Martial Artists Alliance came looking for us. No matter who it is, as long as they help you, Tong Zun will help. I believe you know Tong Zun's strength." If the ancestor of the sword sect, Jian Tian, was still alive, Murong Guena didn't finish his words, but the meaning was clear. There was no need to talk about Tong Zun's strength. Long Ao was almost certain that in the martial heaven continent, unless the heavenly Daos or the god diviner personally took action, there were only a few people who could defeat Tong Zun. Long Ao didn't blame anyone because he knew that the sword sect, the five-element sect, and the heaven and earth sect wouldn't offend the Martial Artists Alliance for him, especially Tong Zun of the Martial Artists Alliance. If Tong Zun went crazy, who in the sword sect would be able to stop him? "Master, I understand, but I still have to thank you." Long Ao couldn't do anything about the sword sect's helplessness. He could also understand. It was better to rely on oneself than to rely on others. In the end, relying on others was useless. It was better to rely on oneself. "Long Ao, what do you plan to do now?" Murong Guena sighed deeply. Because of Tong Zun's interference, he had no choice but to help Long Ao. Between Long Ao and Tong Zun, he would definitely choose Tong Zun over Long Ao. Not only him, but anyone would make the same choice. "I don't know, but I'll think about it." "Master, if that's the case, then forgive me for not keeping you company. I'll take my leave first." Without giving Murong Guena any chance to speak, Long Ao immediately turned and left. Things had already reached this point. He knew that even if he stayed, it wouldn't be of much use. Rather than staying here, it was better to leave as soon as possible and think of a way to save his family. Long Ao family had set up this trap to deal with him. The one who started the trouble should end it. He believed that other than himself, there was no one else in this world who could save his family. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.